Oh my god.
How sweet the sound.
I didn't push it live yet.
Oh, dang it.
I'm going to try to do like Patrick. Hello and welcome to the Planet Destiny podcast number 81.
No. You would forget what number it was.
Oh, you're right. You're right. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
Holtzman and Ms. 5000 Watts are not in today's podcast because of personal reasons. We do have 3 guests, though, and I think you guys are very excited because of these guests. First off, we got a returning guest, PopeBear. Say hello. I mean, they can already see you, but you should say hello regardless.
Hello.
And then we got Myelin. Say hello, Myelin.
Hi, how you going?
Awesome. And then we got MyNameIsByf. Say hello, Byf.
Cheers, guys. How you doing?
Awesome. Obviously, we got Briar Rabbit. Hey, Briar. How's it going?
Hello.
So things in Destiny to talk about, guys?
There is.
Yeah.
There's news. We got Beaver errors. We got fixed Beaver
right.
errors. We got a new charity event sponsored by Bungie. But what we really wanted to talk about this week, and that's why Myelin and MyNameIsByf are here, was we thought this would be a good week to do some lore. This is something that our podcast in particular definitely lacks on the regular. And we thought, what a great time to investigate the lore of the Fallen, of the Iron Lords, and get some guys who really know a bunch about this in. So
Absolutely.
we're looking forward to that.
A lot of it's a big mystery to me. I didn't even know about, is it Yolder? Yolder's a female warlock, is that right?
Yeah, all the different Iron Lords have, well, we suspect they have different classes because of the Iron Banner. Yeah.
I just saw the collective eye roll of both Byf and Myelin, and Myelin doesn't even have a webcam. that was gorgeous.
See, I'm setting this up for you guys. Like, I'm just teeing it up.
Beautifully.
Just,
Be like, guess what? Get ready to get learned. See? All right, let's get learned.
Thank you, Teft.
So this week we got update 2.3.1. There were some big issues with this one. The Beaver errors. Basically, 2.3.1 dropped. Everybody started immediately complaining on Twitter that they could not connect. They were getting Beaver errors. Bungie had an interesting response, I thought, to this one. They responded with some instructions about your NAT type. Check your router, check what kind of NAT type you're running to see if that could fix the Beaver error for you, which I thought was interesting because I'm wondering if this Beaver error is actually the netcode fix that Tefty has been looking for so long.
The elusive netcode savior?
Right? So
I think we could be hopeful for that, Briar, but I think it's more stuff for the back end that helps to establish the separation between the legacy consoles and the new stuff. And what we're seeing is a ripple effect from that, like the fixes.
Ripple Beaver.
You're seeing lots of rippled Beaver and some log jams.
when the error codes start popping up, they said if a player has strict NAT, they may encounter Beaver error codes when connecting to other players. If a player has a moderate NAT in matchmaking, then they may have a problem connecting to a player that has strict or moderate NAT. So NAT's how I don't know the specifics of how a NAT works, but it basically is opening ports, router talk for how your router is actually connected to the internet, what ports are open, how it can send and receive information.
Okay, so it's interesting that they dropped some sort of update
Right.
that broke some holes that made NAT type issues even more relevant. Thank you, Beagle. Thank you. I was gonna say,
It's very upsetting.
yeah, it's very upsetting that these errors seem to be emphasized. So it's interesting that there's some sort of update that they're doing that actually is affecting the NAT type restrictions. So it does actually make me think that there's possibly something going on with with rewriting some of the code in there that is going to potentially open up something that they're working on for the Crucible side. Hopefully they are actually rewriting some of this code or some of the networking connections to be more consistent, because we all know in the past 6 months there's been a considerable inconsistency in connections. So maybe the Beaver is a sign. If the Beaver sees its tail, the Beaver sees its tail as soon as it comes out of the dam. 6
Well,
more months.
let me ask you then, if the beaver is a tell, right? Then what's an anteater for? What was the week before, right?
That was Anteater, right?
Right. So that's my point.
Oh,
is
briefly,
that,
yeah.
Right. Well,
What about all these weasels, though, man? There are all these
Yeah.
hairy weasels running
I
everywhere.
mean-
It's just like it's a herd of weasels.
right.
They've been
so,
forever.
Well, they've been keep dropping these patches, right? And they don't really tell us much about what's in them, but every time they drop, it seems like there's a new connection issue, right? There's a new error code that seems like everybody's getting. It was Anteater, now it's Beaver. They fixed the Beaver error with today's update, which was, timely at least, which was nice.
Yeah.
we see several of these big errors coming out, and I think they represent Bungie's attempt to do what they said they were going to do, expire the legacy consoles, and then also make some adjustments to prepare for the new expansion. And so I'm willing to put up with that right now. I understand that this is a live game and there are works in progress, and it's a very complicated game. It's a little frustrating right now to get those and get knocked out of games, and they happen at just the most inopportune moments. I mean, it's just crazy. The one where we were getting the Anteater one, where it happened just as you were finishing a game in Iron Banner, like you had won the game essentially, and just as you were finishing the game, it would kick you out. I mean, that kind of stuff frustrates people really badly, but I'd just like everybody to kind of take a relax
just when you
a
have to
little bit.
realize you got outplayed.
Oh, Jesus, but I swear, Tefty, if you keep...
I mean, that
outplayed.
type outplayed you, man.
It did. I'm happy that we're getting closer to Rise of Iron, and that they're going to be able to... And I apologize to anybody who's PS3 and Xbox 360, but I'm happy we're getting the move to the new consoles, to be honest with you.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's well needed.
I think given the stats they released, about 90% of the players being on Xbox One and PS4, I mean, it's the least harmful point at which you can do it, aside from waiting another year. And by that point, you've done more harm than good to the majority of the player base anyway.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would argue that a lot of harm has already been done unnecessarily anyway, but yeah. This move was going to happen. I mean, everyone knew it, so
Yeah.
you've had your time to prepare, so to speak. And there are plenty of opportunities for you to go ahead and move forward. I'd look in the summer sales for new consoles as well.
I think you can get an
Tons of them
Xbox
right
One
now.
for like $250 right now.
Yeah,
I think
and
like the
trade-ins
PlayStation 4
too.
just went on sale. It was like $280
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting
a good time to buy.
I'm getting a third one right now.
Third one?
Yeah,
Too soon.
No, I'm developing my own little fire team.
Next
My,
on Hoarders.
It's fun. And my son, my fiance, and me are gonna play together. And she started playing, and it's been so much fun playing with a new player and who's never played consoles before, and having to start the game and playing all of Destiny from the very, very beginning, and having them react to stuff.
That's cool.
It's really been a lot of fun, and I'm really impressed.
It's a different
with how well she's
experience
doing.
than what we had too.
Oh, yeah.
I did that recently on the Xbox One. It started a character from scratch, and it's amazing the changes they've made to the original storyline really do make sense, and it feels much more cohesive now.
It feels good. The story actually makes a hell of a lot more sense now. Well,
Yeah.
she's still confused a little bit, but it makes sense to me more.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, in the first place, I think it's naturally just a big freaking huge jump. I mean, the minute you jump into the world, there's questions that are so important and so big that they still never answer. Like, this to this day is one of my biggest gripes, is you got that big thing floating off in the background of the tower, and they never really explain what the hell that thing is. They just say...
They don't talk about it much at all, do they?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like a god, and
science.
it's good, and it's like called the Traveler, but it's not... go kill aliens.
Yeah. It accelerated
one
time
of the
and
hard
space.
things is like when you're playing, I always find I'm in a fire team chat, and so all those really important dialogue pieces is usually when you're chatting to everyone, so you often miss a whole bunch of the story, and then you're like, what are we doing? And you're at the end boss already.
And this is why I'm a solo player. Because
As
I
Rise
don't
of
want
Iron,
people
I'll be
ruining my
solo.
story.
You know what? I'm the same way, actually. The first time I play a game, even if it's like very co-op driven, I want to experience it solo 100% first. Because
Every
I
time a DLC drops,
Yeah.
I do the same
Yeah.
thing. Is
Yeah.
I I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to watch those cutscenes. I want to hear the dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I like the experience. Like I played Borderlands 2 front to back first solo. I played Destiny the same way. Just the immersion, even though I don't pay as much attention to lore as I should, but the immersion level still is very important to me.
Yeah.
That's sacrilegious, man. Why don't you just insult our guests more?
Because I'm trying to learn.
That's why they're here to teach.
I mean, fingers crossed if they're doing it right with Rise of Iron, you won't have to delve deep into it. I mean, it's something that's pointed out so many times by Belle over on Guardian Radio. If ever I get too deep into a tangent, she pulls me back and she's like, keep in mind, most people have no freaking clue what you're talking about, and I'd love it if this was actually in the game.
That's a strong argument to make that, we do wish it would be in the game, but there is a certain nerdy factor, like a little geek bone in my body that does enjoy the fact that there is extra lore, right? There is stuff in the game, right? But there's also stuff outside the game. So if I'm interested, I can go to the Grimoire. It's not an optimal situation. It'd be nice if it was in both places, but I do like that there is extra stuff out there that I can learn more about the Fallen, about the Vex, about, Guardians. It is out there, and that's kind of cool. Even though, yeah, it's not an optimal place, I do enjoy that on a certain level, that it is out there. If you do want to invest the time into it, you can.
I think there needs to be a balance between the storytelling and not telling everything. So there's aspects where you can still go and discover those things. So I really hope they keep that element where it's not spoon-fed, but enough is given so you really know what's going on.
You see, I think Destiny's storytelling, in particular, Myelin is completely correct when he talks about how the balance needs to be, but right now it's very weird because they have the same kind of storytelling to world building balance that Dark Souls has, right? Where everything you see in-game and like the item flavor text and all this other stuff, that's where the story really is to a huge extent, and they're trying to slowly shift it to where the narrative is more based in cinematics and cutscenes and all that stuff and your actual actions in game. But lots of great stuff is still hidden within those items. That's what's, I don't know, it's just because Destiny's in such a weird place right now. It's trying to migrate to what I think WoW is, where it's got a brilliant balance of the two, and a true lore master knows all of this stuff because they've been able to dig through all of the stuff behind it. But really, any player can get that sort of surface level grasp of it and then just say, oh, I'd like to explore deeper if they want. Like, that's the delicate balance that's trying to get struck here. And I mean, delicate is the word I'd use. It's tough. It really is, but it's very clear which side of it they need to work more on. And it's just the narrative and cinematics and actual cutscenes and character development. So
they've certainly been improving. With the Taken King, we got some real story, right? Because we got to learn more about Cade 6. We got to learn about Oryx. Not a lot about Oryx. If you wanted to delve deeper into his backstory, that stuff was there. You just had to go looking for it. But it felt like there was more of a narrative, a story that you got swept up into. This big ass dude is coming to wreck house, and we got to go fight him, man. And if you want to look deeper into that, there was the Books of Sorrow and all sorts of cool stuff back there if you want.
I don't know. I think personally it should be in the tower. Like, if you look
Doom,
if you play Doom, they have a codex in there, and everything that you discover in Doom, suddenly you can read about it in the codex, and some of it's voice acted. It's amazing, actually. It's really well done.
I didn't know some of it was voice acted. Damn.
Some of it, I believe, not all of it.
I mean, I know that Mass Effect did it with its codex, which is just, God, it's like, Matt, you probably preached the same thing as me, but God, isn't it so glorious?
Yeah, it's amazing. That's if Destiny had that, I'd be all over that. Because the times where I want to sit in Destiny, but I don't necessarily want to do something, I'd be in the tower. I'd be checking out the codex.
Yeah. And idle times in the tower. How many times have you guys been sitting there just jumping around because you've had nothing better to do? That's the time when you delve into the codex. You're like, I want to learn more about this cool looking dude.
It's pretty obvious that it would be awesome to walk up to the speaker, and he's got that bookshelf up there. He's got all that stuff there. If you just turned, instead of staring at him, you turned around and said, access the books, access the central, history of our people, and it's got the big rotating ball thing. That room would be perfect for accessing, if you went up to one of those globy things that are around in that room, and you went up to it, and each one of those globy things, maybe as you activate the lore, activates one of those new globe things, and I'm hoping that, I don't know if this is the reality or not, but I'm hoping that with focus on the new consoles that we can get some of that in-game stuff, because I know that most of that stuff just comes down to real estate, right? Value of how much they can put into the game. So I'm hoping that we get that there.
It would make sense that now would be the time that they could start adding those things, because they have the space freedom to put it into the code base.
Total side note, moving away from the story topic, but also it means that I can stick to my hoarderish ways. As much as I, accused Pope of it earlier, I'm the real hoarder here, because my vault is full of all my rubbish from year one.
Preaching to the choir here.
Year one.
Definitely preaching to the choir.
So it's like,
my vault is full. My postmasters, plural, are full.
yeah, like I can't wait for that kind of like general stream where they go into a social space and they explain all the new changes to the economy, and then like in one of the things they're just like, "Yo, vault space, we quadrupled it this time." Like you know that I can't wait for that. I mean,
they're definitely going to expand it.
Yeah, they're going to expand it for sure. With all the space they have, they could potentially, but I'd prefer they do it on other things. But still, just for the sake of showing, like, we have the space. Imagine if that happened, For the hoarders, I know would be...
It'd be so great. We don't have to worry about dismantling a bunch of crap.
So, there was one other piece of news that we wanted to bring up, and that is that there's going to be a charity event on August 6th, 7th, and 8th, sponsored by Bungie. It's called Call to Arms 2016. It's a charity to support Stack Up, which is a veteran support group. And they're going to be doing it over on Twitch. They got a bunch of streamers doing it. Say No to Rage, Tefty, you're involved. Cheriona, Real Crafty, Dado, Say No to Rage. I already said his name. Angry Iceberg, Lucky and Buttwipe. A lot of guys are involved in this. A lot of big names. This is pretty cool. Tefty, do you know more about the charity?
Not a whole lot. They just, I got an email and I said, yeah, I'd definitely be down. I know Holtz and Watts are also part of it as well. They're going to be on there. Yeah, it's like how many hours? Is it more than 48?
It goes across 3 days, so...
Yeah. 9 a.m. August 6th to 10 a.m. August 8th.
There we go.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's 48 hours. Wow.
Oh, it's exactly 4. Okay, yeah. It's it's going to be a cool thing that Bungie obviously is putting together and sponsoring and all that. So, yeah, I'm excited to do it.
So, we got the lore guys here. Let's talk some lore.
Fill me in.
Right?
I don't have a codex to go to in the game, and I'm lazy.
Where to start?
Yeah, that's the question.
I was thinking in general, Byf, maybe at the sort of the Elixir sort of history of the Fallen, to sort of understand them a bit better before House of Devils and then Iron Lords.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best, because then when we do finally get to Sol, we can then sort of... do you want to go over Six Fronts? I don't know whether you interpret that as being part of the Iron Lords history, but I do personally.
Yeah, I reckon.
Okay.
So, I guess the first part is that the Traveller visited the Fallen before it came to us, and they were called the Elixir there. And this event happened called the Whirlwind, so that was the Fallen's version of the Collapse, right?
Okay.
And let me know if you guys have heard most. A lot of people would know some of this.
Well, just assume that we don't know anything, and tell us a good story.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, the cool thing about before the Whirlwind is the Fallen were their houses tolerated each other. They didn't fight necessarily amongst each other. Well, they did occasionally, but they were relatively peaceful sort of society, and a lot of the cards describe them as political, traditional, noble, and even the Vault of Glass card talks about how their planet was a paradise. It had tended lakes and rivers, lush crops,
massive sky lanes that stretched the horizon. So there's trade, there's infrastructure.
So they had aerial traffic that went through. So imagine Fallen driving jets and cars, and that was the.
Damn.
That would make some cool artwork.
Fallen middle class.
Yeah. And so they were, for all purposes, like us, going through a golden age. the whirlwind happened, which we don't really know what that was, but it says that the traveler fled just prior to the whirlwind, and then the whirlwind teared the Fallen apart, and then that's when all the houses started to compete, basically. And they started to fight amongst each other.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, are you saying that the Fallen are just jealous because we're the Traveler's new bay?
That is 100%
Pretty much
correct.
Really?
That is the best the explanation for it. Yeah.
We are the Traveler's new girlfriend, and they're just jealous.
Yeah,
That makes me nervous, because that means the Traveler might just one day be like, you know what?
Hey, things are good right now. The Traveler's treating us good, making
Well,
us
isn't that what happened to us, though?
taking us out to nice dinners. No, I'm talking about the Golden Age.
Lobster.
You know, and that's the beginning of the relationship. You know, life's great, nothing can go wrong, and all of a sudden, things start going bad, right?
Isn't that what happened to us too, Byf? Is once things started going bad, didn't the Traveler try and take off? He just got interrupted?
Yeah. So, Matt, correct me if I'm mistaken here, but there's that theory that the Warmind actually prevented the Traveler from leaving.
Yeah. So, Rasputin 5 Ghost Fragment basically has a section that says prevent, and it uses a symbol, and basically it's a square bracket with a circle in it. So it doesn't say the Traveler, but it's a circle inside two closed square brackets. And it says prevent this thing, something from departure, and it says release, catometric release, and basically unleash this weapon and cripple it from leaving. And it says by doing this, we will force it to make a defense mechanism. And so Rasputin predicted if it took down the Traveler would be forced into making ghosts as a defense mechanism. And that's what differentiates us from any other civilization, is that the Traveler always left, whereas in this case, our Warminds took down the Traveler, forced it to make ghosts. That's how we had Guardians. That's why we're different and we could face off against
So
Warminds.
essentially, where the Traveler never really got its previous girlfriends pregnant, we got pregnant. And now he's got to stick around and take care of the alimony. Good job, Rasputin. Way to put those holes in that condom.
So does that make Rasputin our dad? Is
That's
this like
right.
a shotgun
So.
wedding, basically?
That's right.
Raspadaddy.
Papa Roos.
Raspadaddy.
Papa Roos.
To sort of go on that again, have a listen to this card about, this whole ex-girlfriend thing. This is from the Fallen, right? Always remember that we came to this start in hope, and remember that we were denied. Remember the city of death of children, the city that docks, which claimed for itself the great machine that might have saved us. So that's talk. The Fallen potentially came here in peace, and there is actually a little bit of evidence that they were actually here prior to the collapse, but hidden, and they only came out after the collapse. And there's just a tiny bit that says that, but sort of the first documentation of the Fallen was pretty much once the Traveler was crippled, the Fallen showed up.
And the other thing to note as well, like, we may, if we're reading off cards, make reference to the Great Machine to clear something up. That is their way of referring to the Traveler. It's almost completely agreed upon by, like, there's a few outlandish theories that say it's not the Traveler or there's something inside it, but essentially, means the Traveler.
This is why I like the Fallen so much, because it's basically it's looking into a mirror, right? It's like it's us. If the Traveler had left us, the Fallen is us, right?
You see,
they're going through the same process, just those small difference at the very end.
The thing that really strikes me is that this is a big reason why I disagree with Dead Orbit, right? Because I look at the Fallen and I'm like, that's what we'd become. We would become this spacefaring race of scavengers, and they are called Fallen pretty much for a reason. And there's a huge change in the way that their entire race functions when the Traveler leaves, right? So the minute that the Traveler has left them, and after the whirlwind, there is this massive problem where, and this is kind of picked up from the fact that they evolved in this way, the Fallen don't necessarily have a way of generating ether. And ether is kind of their sustenance. People try to relate it to like their air or their food, but long story short, if you don't get ether as a Fallen, you grow smaller. So you know how Skolas and like a Dreg are the same race, but Skolas is freaking huge? That's because Skolas gets like a buttload more ether than a Drake, and if you get
doping.
no ether, you die. So
There is one mention of like prime servitors is actually, it's only like, it's sort of mentioned in the Grimoire cards, but they said they theorize that prime servitors make ether, and that's why the prime servitors are considered godlike to the fallen, but it's only very, it's sort of, you know how they sort of present theories in the Grimoire cards. It's sort of like, we're not too sure, but we think the prime servitors make ether.
That would make sense as to why when you're in the world and they're fighting those fallen that are around one of the servitors, they're
The health buffs. Yeah.
I mean, it's
you
not
go into-
just. Oh yeah, because the servitors restore health to opponents who've taken
they
damage.
restore health. Yeah.
That too.
When you go into Sepix Prime, they're bowing and praising Sepix Prime and all that. It's interesting that would be a godlike figure that gives them life force.
Before we moved too far away from it, it was really interesting to me when you said that the Fallen might have been here before the collapse. Would that indicate that they're not part of the darkness? Like we think of all these races as being part of this like nebulous darkness that we don't really know much about, but would that be an indication that they're not part of that? Could we possibly?
I think Byf would probably agree with this too. That initially we thought the Fallen were the darkness, but with sort of the Taken King and Oryx and the Books of Sorrow, I think they were aligned with the light. So like the hierarchy is, you've got the deep, which is the darkness, and you've got the sky, which is the light, and then you have like agents of the darkness and agents of the light. So the agents of the darkness were the worm gods, and then Oryx took that place, or he was below them, and then took almost a worm god sort of position. And then the Traveller was an agent of the light. And so if you look at it from that perspective, the Fallen were underneath the Traveller. They were agents for the light, and they just want to get the Traveller back.
So they're a jealous girlfriend that's showing up at his he's over at our house now. He's dating us. And she's outside throwing rocks at our window and scratching up and sticking,
just trying to hit us with that bow.
She's popping, putting knives in our tires and throwing rocks at our windows.
Yeah.
I'd say this is a very violent girlfriend, but I mean, this is the Fallen, right?
Right. We're talking about the Fallen here. Yeah.
Their ether supply was cut.
Yeah.
Hey, have you seen Byf in the Septic's Prime mission? I didn't know this until I had a bit of a look last night. The scannable bones. Have you seen that?
Yes, I think so. The ones just before the actual room.
Yeah. So this is what I was talking about before, where maybe they were before the collapse. It says that not all of these bones belong to guardians. Some were pulled from stasis pods and offered in sacrifice. That makes them older than the collapse. Typically, the Fallen only use this ceremonial presentation for members of rival houses, which I never knew before. So some of those bones appear to be Fallen, and this appears to suggest that they were here before the collapse, which I definitely didn't know before.
I would imagine that if the Fallen had done their own version of the Golden Age, right, and they had reached out and scanned the universe, or been able to reach out and explore their universe, their timeline, it would make sense that they would have found us prior to our Golden Age and have come to Earth not at war but in peace, or as an explorer, right? Not as a jealous girlfriend. Maybe they just met at the same tanning salon or something, or getting their feet up. They're just
I'm
getting more confused by the whole girlfriend.
Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Right.
I'm with you.
But so does that also mean that because we've talked, this is completely side tangent, but we've talked about another class that you could choose being a Fallen class. Would that fit in the lore then? So if they're the Agent of Light, they're not Guardians because no ghost has found them, but could a ghost potentially find and revive a Fallen and make them into a Guardian?
I would. I've always wished to align ourselves with the Fallen because of that reason. I think from a lore point of view, we could have Fallen allies very easily.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the question, especially given how close the ties are between Varix and the Reef. There's a lot of, like, you know, the whole Kell of Kell prophecies, who knows how that's going to end up, but potentially one of these days, maybe a Kell of Kell actually sides with us. You know, there's a way of reclaiming the great machine that isn't through war, it's through diplomacy. If that is the case, I don't see any reason why a ghost can't pick up a Fallen, because they do have a form of psionic ability to them which shows that they're capable of manipulating the universe. So, take a look at captains, right? They can blink. So can Kells and, you know, Archons and Archon priests. They have this ability to tap into the foundations of the universe, just like a Guardian does, just like Hive Knights and Wizards do, just like any of the Ascendant Hive do. So, they do have that ability, that fundamental power. I think that just harnessing light through it is the only part where they'd really need the ghost. But again, all stuff for Destiny 2, right?
I think this is phenomenal. I mean, think about Bungie's past with Halo, and we got to play as the Arbiter.
The elites in Halo 2.
How dope would that be if we, say we start as a character... Sorry, Beagle.
Everybody's excited.
Everybody else... Beagle muting.
He's like elites. Oh my god.
Arbiter hype.
Arbiter.
Yeah. It's it seriously is an idea. And I mean, imagine that if all of a sudden you split them down the middle with the campaign, if you create a fourth character and it's like, you know, Elixni Guardian, so to speak. Yeah. And then all of a sudden that bursts off into its entirely different storyline. You then jump in and the first thing you're doing is you're actually part of the House of Kings, maybe. And you get to finally explore that house, find a new destination.
That could be a very fascinating storytelling, because we could keep our 3 characters that we have right now and have had that storyline, and they wouldn't have to tell a new story with those. You could have a new 4th class be the Fallen and have that story woven, and then have them come together after you've unlocked the Fallen story fully. Then you unlock the rest of the story for your 3 Guardians. It's a very fascinating possibility to tell stories.
Imagine the PvP melee with 4 arms.
Oh my.
Balanced. It can't be any worse than getting a shoulder charge 180 degrees or Warlock melee to cross the whole stage.
I can only imagine how awesome it would be to fight as a Fallen. And before I was beagled, which is it should be a Bungie error code, by the way, being beagled. Anyway, I think that it would be awesome if you started off as a Fallen, like, drag maybe, and worked your way up into, like, and became the more ether
you got to get the ether.
Yeah. And then you
Hit
became
that ether.
Yeah.
So, interesting point on this. You know how previously the Traveler was essentially had chosen the Elixni. They were the ones before. So, have you ever wondered why servitors are round? There's a very interesting theory that because, of course, they're actually just machines that the Fallen crafted together themselves, they're packed with ancient, not very well understood Fallen technology. Essentially, there's a belief that these are actually just machines from the Golden Age. They specifically made them round because it's a replacement of the Traveler. And as a result, you're just sort of like creating this weird kind of hybrid almost, where it's not really something that provides sustenance. It provides ether, but the form of sustenance that the Fallen really take from could be the light. And if that's the case, then imagine a Drake starting off, gets found by our lucky ghost or something, and all of a sudden, instead of just having to eat ether, you know, the very power of light getting infused into it, the process of leveling up actually empowers them. Yeah. So, I mean, that's, again, that theory is... Like, this is the thing, right? Matt's going to back me up on this. Anything we say on, like, early Fallen history, back when they were the Elixni, as well as some of the stuff on their biology and culture, we'd go off little pieces that we get and theory, because that's all there really is for so much of the stuff in Destiny. And a lot of it does make sense, and it gets crafted together, and then you have to just sort of say, well, there's so many little things indicating X, so X has to be true. But at the end of the day, there's still so many gaps in our knowledge, you know? I want more
really
so I can fill them in.
I really like that theory.
Essentially, servitors are false gods, right? For them.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like, it's a way of providing sustenance, but it's a little bit like a... I almost want to liken it to
use of travelers' abilities, right? A traveler's technology.
Yeah, it almost looks like a...
I want to say it's like a lich's phylactery, almost, you know? Like it's there to provide them sustenance and to keep them alive, but it's not really real life, you know?
Yeah.
True.
What's a lich's phylactery?
Okay, so the idea behind a lich is that it's basically somebody who is immortal because they've bound their soul to a physical object, and they can't die technically as long as that physical object is not destroyed.
Like Harry Potter?
The Horcrux.
Like a Horcrux.
You got it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I got that. Horcrux.
Except instead of 7, there's only 1.
There can be only
the other cool thing with the servitors is in the Reef Wars, they worship basically perfect spherical objects like a servitor, which sort of backs up why Byf was saying that, you know, that's why they worship servitors like gods, because of their appearance like a traveller, or they made servitors in the image of the traveller. But even in the Reef Wars, like there's a part where they actually go to an asteroid that's perfectly spherical because they consider it to be good luck. So it's sort of in their tradition to be following the traveller, and that's how much the traveller influenced them.
Now, for the sake of understanding whether this is comical misfortune on their part, are we talking about Ceres here, Myelin?
I can't remember which one it was. It probably was.
Long story short, is it the one that gets blown up by the Queen?
Yeah, the Queen.
Yes.
Which
Guys,
probably
go to
leads
the round
into
asteroid.
our next
It's
thing,
going to be good luck. Nope.
Yeah, the Queen just... so the Queen during the Reef Wars had like 3 major weapons. One was the Harbingers, which just obliterated everything. The second was the Caribus, which was a gravity weapon where she basically took asteroids off their trajectory and flung asteroids into the House of Wolves fleet. And the other one was the Tech Witches, where they did an illusion of the Harbingers. So basically they basically scared off the House of Wolves by pretending they had Harbingers.
Yeah. All about that deception and not engaging with direct force. You see, this is why the Queen is actually just such a scary figure, even for the Fallen, because she's outnumbered horrendously at this point. There's literally somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million Fallen within the House of Wolves, probably. And she just decimates half their fleet in a single attack and loses almost nothing. It's an event so traumatic for that house. They call it the scatter, because everybody's like, okay, let's all run, out of dodge, bye, okay, adios.
Yeah, it actually mentions that the House of Wolves fleet was from 500,000 to 1 million in strength. And I guess this probably leads on to Twilight Gap, and this is where everything's sort of going to start coming together, I guess, with House of Devils and the Iron Lords. But I guess just before that, it was the Six Fronts. So do you want to briefly mention Six Fronts before getting to Twilight Gap?
Yeah, I guess. So, Six Fronts is by the time that the city has just sort of started to establish its walls. The Titan Orders have formed, but it's still, if I'm not mistaken, this is still technically considered the Dark Age, as opposed to the City Age, right?
It says that they're not too sure when the City Age starts. Was it when the walls were first built, or where was it just when the most refugees were there? And so it's pretty much either right at the end of the Dark Age or at the very, very beginning of the City Age.
Either way, it's a super early battle in the history of the city, and at this point, it's the House of Devils that are primarily attacking. So, Myelin, you actually did in one of your Same 14 lore videos, you did an amazing render of what happened here. But long story short, it's called the Battle of the Six Fronts because there were 6 fronts at which the city had to be defended, and 4 different orders of Titans had to hold the walls, basically. You know, support from hunters and warlocks and whatnot, but the Titans are the big kind of foundations to the defense.
Wait, Byf, say that again. Who defended the city from everybody else?
Not you, Pope.
Oh.
I think he's referring to no backup plans in Universal Remote.
Yeah.
I am very much referring to Fun Police.
That's what I'm saying. So are you saying that nothing could beat a Titan in his bubble? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the Fallen are all noobs.
Oh.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. The point is, like,
they all had
these fronts
strict nat types.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sorry, Byf. I just had to inject some humor. Go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah.
But it's the 6 fronts that were being defended by these 4 Titan orders never broke. Interesting fact about this, by the way, this is where the Titan class symbol comes from. You know the hexagon? It's divided into 4 different shapes that make up that hexagon. The 6 sides to the hexagon each represent one of the 6 fronts. The 4 shapes each represent a Titan order. And that's where
cool.
interesting little piece of fact,
really cool.
right?
Yeah.
So for you Titans out there, now you know.
That makes me want to be a Titan.
It makes me proud to be a Titan.
A little bit.
No. It makes me proud.
Like, there's actually so much cool Titan lore in this particular battle, right? So, basically, House of Devils are the ones attacking. They get completely repelled here. And there's a few small little things that link now sort of into the Iron Lords with this. Because with them, and Myelin is going to back me up when I say that this is one of those things that's a theory, and that has quite a bit of weight to it, but isn't necessarily confirmed. Basically, at the end of the battle, there's this big split and division between Titans, right? Because there's one half being like, yeah, let's hold the walls, defend, keep on doing our job, we got this, guys. And then there's this order called the Firebreak Order, and they are pissed off, because the Firebreak Order thinks, basically, that in order to defend the city, they need to distract the enemy and pull them away, and make sure that, therefore, they can defend it by having the fight nowhere even near. You know, the idea of a firebreak is to create a literal gap. You burn a certain portion of wood, so that an oncoming blaze stops there because it's got no more fuel to sort of, burn further. This order of Titans, they actually refer to this moment so much that, there's marks out there, like the Mark of the Lost Charge, where they say this whole battle was a waste, we should have decimated the fallen lines entirely. And there were actually a couple of commanders who took this on their shoulders. 2 guys called Jaggy and Radagast. Radagast may sound a little bit familiar to you guys,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Well, I can tell you he had a kick-ass rocket launcher.
Yeah.
That's probably the case.
Fun
But yeah,
cartridge,
so...
grenades and horseshoes.
This this battle is really interesting because you've got Saint 14, Osiris was also there, and you've also got the Iron Lords. So you've got this intersection of basically all these really main characters all coming together for this one battle, and then going off onto separate sort of storylines. And so it's really cool, the idea that we might be able to go back and revisit some of this in the Rise of Iron, because there's lots of unanswered questions to exactly what happened during this period, why Osiris left after it. Saint 14, sort of like the Firebreak, also left after it as well. And I've got a couple other theories about the Iron Lords and their involvement during that, and also Jaggy's host too. The interesting thing about Jaggy's host is there's some reference to where they went, and it's south of the Cosmodrome near the Caspian Sea. And I believe this is what's referenced as, this potentially is the Plague Lands. I have memory of either Deej or somewhere saying that the Plague Lands will be south of the Cosmodrome. Maybe correct me if I'm
that's true.
wrong.
That's correct.
So the question is, right, did Jaggy's host go to the Plague Lands? Because you'll know the interesting thing about this, Bife, with Jaggy's host, 7
vanish.
corrupted ghosts came back from the Plague Lands.
Not even corrupted. They just never spoke about anything that happened. They were completely silent for that day, returned one by one, but never spoke a word. Jaggy and his host of 7 were never seen again. And thus they vanished. Their legend, mystery. But,
listen to this. So
they went in the Vault of Glass.
The time ghosts of Jaggy's host came back without them. Remember, they got in that fight at some point east of the Caspian. 7 ghosts, damn near silent, buzzing with some sort of corruption, drifting back to the tower one by one.
Where are you reading this? I don't know.
This is... bit. Yeah, I can find... Ghost Fragment Titan card.
No.
Yeah, it's like about halfway down.
Because you see, I've... when I did this... Originally, I was looking at the Mark of the Sortie, which details the same story, but is very much a much briefer version of it. Just says they never spoke again.
Yeah.
Interesting. So there's these 7... Are they Titans also? Titans are just where we don't know?
We don't know. Guardians for sure, but...
I guess you can speculate they were part of the Firebreak.
Do you think there's the possibility that they're going to expand on these guys in the Plague Lands and like either discover lore behind them or discover that they've been turned somehow? Maybe there is some sort of
Well, Matt,
enemy corresponds.
In the stream recently, they said that SIVA has to be controlled by, quote, a mind,
someone.
right?
Yes.
So, like, theories abound as to what that mind could be. I mean, there's some people that will say, oh, it's just another aspect of the darkness. There's a couple of people who said to me that they think it's going to be Ray's Lazir, and that's why they've been teasing his Grimoire cards. There's some people that say it's going to be the original Iron Lords. Having them be Jaggy 7 is also one of the things on the cards, but the point for now is that we just do not know.
Yeah.
But possibilities abound.
He has a
could be
question.
Rasputin too.
This is something that's always I've wondered about. How old is the last city? Like, how long has it been? Because
I want to say about
good to put in
just
perspective.
under 200 years, right?
200 years.
So,
I mean, from its most basic refugee state, sort of.
So there's a couple of references that give indication to how old the city is, and it's mainly your ghost speaking during cutscenes. Like the very first one, he says it took centuries before he found you. So the ghost says it took centuries before I found you. Everyone else was finding their guides. It took me centuries before I found you. So that would indicate that ghosts were only created during the collapse. So the Dark Age at least lasted maybe for a couple 100 years. And then you've got the City Age. So how many years did that last as well? So I think like a conservative, since the collapse, maybe like 400 or 600 years, but I wouldn't.
Because it's interesting because Destiny is supposed to be set in 27, like 85 or so, in terms of actual year. It's the 28th century. So, like the estimates I'd always heard was that the Golden Age went on for approximately 500, and then everything that we've experienced went on for the last 2. /3, depending on how much you measure it by. But, again, it goes to show nobody is 100% certain with this kind of stuff because, again, it's just not detailed.
Right.
But what I would say is that Lord Saladin is really, really old. if he was around, if he was at the Battle of Six Fronts, he's like at least a couple 100 years old. That's why he's got grey hairs.
Is that because he's got ether pumping through his veins or something? He's on that ether high life.
I gotta get that sweet ether high.
So did they ever say in the lore how it? They made a mention of that expanding humans' lifespan, but did they give us like an idea of how long we lived? Would 200 years be a age for a person to have lived during the Golden Age?
Well, also, you've been resurrected.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, they say human lifespan, quote, tripled.
Tripled,
right? So take that as its most extreme thing, where if you're really fortuitous, you'll live 100 years. All of a sudden, human lifespan is 300 years. But on average, keep in mind, because people are not always the healthiest, let's say that it's, somewhere around about 65 now, because it's a develops. Even conservatively, we could go ahead and probably push it to 70, given the technological revolution of the Golden Age. That's still 200 years. So,
So what you're saying is that if I 1v1 Lord Saladin, I could take him.
Have you seen that axe?
I don't know. He's old. He's old.
I think so, man.
I'm just saying.
I'd chill. I would chill.
You wouldn't take him?
I'd back off that. I'd bet on Saladin.
I just sit back and watch. I wouldn't even need to bet. The entertainment
Is that 200 years of experience?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome that there is that kind of in-depth lore into how Titan saved everybody's butts. But are we looking at like when the Fallen are corrupted by SIVA and we're gonna have to discover this? We're starting off in the Cosmodrome. Well, we believe we're starting off in the Cosmodrome. Do you guys think it's gonna take us to this old Russia or old the European, the Plague Lands? Your best guess is the Caspian Sea? Yeah, European Dead Zone. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
definitely not the
think
European
so,
Dead Zone, right? Like, because the European Dead Zone is its own massive freaking thing. That's all.
Okay.
That's just France, Germany, this kind of area. Right now, if we're looking at the Cosmodrome, we're looking at more like Kazakhstan, Baikonur, Caspian Sea type area, right?
Okay.
Because that's really kind of geographically speaking, that's where we are on the map.
I was reading something about this. I think the Cosmodrome's actually based on Kazakhstan, but then they made it Russia. So the Plague Lands
dude,
is sort of south
that's
of there.
That's why it's old Russia, because Russia during the Soviet Union, the USSR, included Kazakhstan as well. So that's their old area. And it's old Russia partly as a reference to spacefaring civilizations in the original area, because they make a lot of references to the USA, Russia, and China. But also it's because of the fact that we're in the collapse. Knowledge has kind of been lost, and it's kind of like, oh, look, old Russia. We sort of know about this civilization that existed before. Mm-hmm. So it's like the remnants of the Soviet era just coming back to haunt.
No Land Beyond. References that soldier. Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's
If I'm not
awesome.
mistaken, yeah.
The other really interesting about Saladin, apart from maybe being a couple 100 years old, is where is his ghost?
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed that? In the tower, he doesn't have a ghost. All other guardians in the tower has a ghost.
But he's not resurrected, right? He hasn't died.
Well,
I was wondering about that.
I mean,
Okay,
this
so
is the thing. He's imbued with light. He is technically a Titan. So he has to have been resurrected because Guardians are all part of the Risen. As for where his ghost is,
Well,
I mean,
didn't here. I'm just thinking this out. Didn't the Traveler create the ghosts at the fall at the time of the collapse to revive Guardians to fight?
yes.
Right. What if he was alive prior to the collapse? Like he's an old guy, dude. He's like the original. He's from the Golden Age, and he never
potentially.
He was born into being a Guardian. Not he's OG. He's an OG Guardian.
Technically, that can happen because I mean, like Matt, think back to the Dread Gnur story, right? With Shin Malfa, who technically inherits a ghost.
Yep.
So it's plausible that we could get him, you know, as an individual who serves the light but doesn't have a ghost. But at the same time, the fact that he's been around for that many years and he's never had one slip. I mean, almost all other Guardians have had a slip at this point.
Yeah.
And just because he doesn't have a ghost in the tower, I think maybe even it could be just something as simple an oversight as he's just an events vendor and he's not that special at the moment of vanilla. And I know that sounds crazy, but
Last gen couldn't put a ghost for him.
like to put
I
it
think
bluntly,
it's purposefully. I think he wasn't given one. I think there'll be a twist about his ghost, particularly with maybe how they use their ghost to seal SIVA away, and we maybe find his ghost.
Oh, and we give it back to him, and he gives us a god roll like Radagast or something, you know, or no, like a god roll something. What would he give us, Byf?
Fellwinter's netcode.
Yes, he would give us Fellwinter's netcode.
Infinite range shotgun, and shoots people in the next game.
He's like,
future
thank
game.
you for bringing back my ghost. Here's something that you can kill people with a sniper, and then he hands us the shotgun.
But if his ghost has been sealed away by SIVA, what's to say that it hasn't been corrupted? Because if we're going to go with the theory as well that Jaggy's ghosts came back corrupted, and they've only just vaguely touched the SIVA, imagine what's happened to something that's been stuck in there for hundreds of years. You know,
That could be the mind.
Yeah, that's right. I think it comes back to whoever's controlling SIVA. So I think if we gain control over that, that's when we'll get the SIVA weapons, the SIVA ghosts, the infected weapons basically to use for good.
Yeah. Because I mean that's the entire crux of why the Iron Lords went after SIVA in the first place, because it is a Golden Age nano self-replicating technology, and the amazing thing about that is it's kind of like saying, if I'm not mistaking this, you could kind of make anything. It has limitless possibilities because it can be limitless. So with a technology like that, it is a key to a second Golden Age, which is again what they kept on teasing in the live streams and whatnot. But the fact that it had a mind that was sort of, you know, controlling it, that's the reason why it then becomes Iron's Bane and is capable of killing them all.
Yeah, well,
So you mentioned the Iron
it says that was
Lords.
going to help them.
You mentioned the Iron Lords. How much do we know about those guys?
Well, limited amounts, to be brutally honest, right? I mean, it's like we know the weapon descriptions of some of them. We know some of the stuff from the Year 2 armor, like in particular class items, if you're looking at general stories. But even then, it has this weird split where people aren't totally sure whether the Iron Lords are the same as the Iron Wolves, and then there's this kind of, I don't know, like the story gets so muddled because all we have are those items of flavor text and like 2 Grimoire cards, basically. And the Grimoire cards do not go into great depth.
the really interesting with the Iron Lords is it never actually told us how many there were. We always assumed there was 9 because there were 9 different item descriptions for the Iron Lords. Felwinter, Scory, Timur, and people sort of assumed that they were corresponded to, Felwinter, Scory, and Timur were warlocks. Ephrodite, Gillion, and Perrin were hunters, and our last 3 were titans. But then Lord Saladin is introduced as an Iron Lord. So that brings the total count to 10, and it says that he was the last Iron Lord. And there's some cool sentences in I think it's just the Iron Banner Grimoire card, and it puts them into pairs. It says like Felwinter and Jolda, Scory and Timur, and it talks about their patrols during 6 fronts and how they went from Felwinter Peak as their base. So I actually think, and this is completely speculation, that the Iron Lords weren't necessarily in the city, and Felwinter was their base of operations, and they actually came to the aid of the city during the Battle of 6 Fronts, and that's why it talks about their invincible patrols. And now if you've got 10 Iron Lords, you've actually got pairs of Iron Lords that could have divided and conquered as maybe their patrols.
Which then links in some very interesting notions. But like the whole fact that they weren't necessarily one with the city, it relates very well to the fact that, this isn't the first example of this in the lore. Like, technically, Jaren Ward is a renegade guardian. He's the one who originally owned the last word. So there are individuals that just sort of don't align themselves to the city, whether they disavow themselves actively or whether it's just a case of, well, okay, I just really don't care. They are people who don't associate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big story. Essentially, he's got. They say he was, man. So his exile is partly a thing of his own choice, right? Because it's a.
Was it his choice, or did he get removed?
I think it's a thing where even if he was removed by the tower, he doesn't really mind, because at the same time he's frustrated with the ignorance of the speaker. It's kind of him and Toland run along very similar lines when it comes to their thought, because you're looking at Toland who says, it's like you've got to burn away this underlying, bed of lies and expose the truth, and at the same time Osiris is there, and equally his entire motivation is trying to delve deeper into Arcana to discover the true nature of the darkness, because you can't actually uncover how you defeat the darkness unless you understand it properly. Right. It's like an enemy team in a game of American football. If you don't look at their strategies beforehand, you're infinitely less prepared. So, yeah, that's kind of the vague thing. But point is, Renegade Guardians exist. So the idea that the Iron Lords had no affiliation with the city, but still were in their duty to defend it, it's very much a thing that happens.
Because I think people forget that there's settlements outside the city. There's people that never made it to the Traveller. There's civilizations that, I would call them settlements, and that's what sort of Dredgenyor and Jaren Ward's about, is all these settlements that are outside the city, that people that could never make it. And some of those settlements are described as they were too fearful to be killed by the Fallen on the journey from their settlement to basically the last remaining city. And so the Iron Lords definitely appear like they went out and helped these settlements. Like the website for Destiny with the Rise of Iron talks about how they ranged across the planet battling the darkness and protecting survivors of the collapse. So I think we'll find Felwinter Peak as their base of operations, and they basically went out as patrolling missions to help people that never made it.
Interesting. So they're really good Samaritan guardians, helping people to the city.
Yep.
Would they have helped them to the city though? Because I mean,
patrols,
no, I don't think
right?
so.
Okay. So the patrols weren't to help people to the city.
It's a totally different sort of bucket of worms, like defending them versus helping them to the city. There's entire Titan orders that are established around that. There's entire legendary hunters.
Pilgrim Guard.
So the removed gauntlet from Year 2, Shinobu's Vow, that gave you even better skip grenades. Lord forbid that's even a thing. Shinobu is actually a hunter from the 6 Coyotes, who they are out there in this one particular legend, and they're defending civilians who are traveling to the city from the Fallen. Equally, there's the first ever Titan Order is known as the Pilgrim Guard, And that name is very suggestive because quite literally they were the guard of pilgrims moving to the city.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting.
Do you want to chat about what we don't know much, but what happened to the Iron Lords? I guess there's really only two pieces that I know about, with Seagoth's head and Radagast's blade, that gives a little bit of a hint of what happened to Iron Lords, and that's about as much as we know.
yeah. Long story short, Radagast's blade, which is a broken tip of a sword, states that as long as the blade was whole, the Iron Banner could never be broken. And Seagoth's head has a quote from Gelion, who is a hunter from the Iron Banner. And this is another reason why we don't know if there were just 9, because Seagoth is another name, and it's actually a Titan helmet, much like Saladin's. But the quote is something along the lines of, "It just doesn't bode well, is all I'm saying. I thought we formed the Iron Banner to fight the darkness."
Darkness, yeah, not ourselves, yeah.
So
And that lag. Sorry. Every time I hear Iron Banner, I have to think about lag. It's okay.
And I mean, you know, like it's
immediately
also
popped up.
there's suggestive pieces of armor, right? So
yeah.
Fellwinter in particular is one that I know people love to gravitate towards in terms of whether he may or may not have betrayed people, because of course his shotgun is called Fellwinter's Lie. And also when you look at his helmet, he's described quite clearly as someone who walks through the void or battles his enemy through the void, being a void walker, and those kind of being a class that's very sort of how do I best put it? What's a word that describes it well? Taboo is a very good word for it, yes. A very taboo class, you know. That's a great way of showing, like, oh, so maybe Fellwinter was the one that turned evil, so to speak, and started
It
to
definitely hints that the Iron Lords turned upon each other, and I would speculate that they were infected by SIVA one by one and turned against each other at some point. That's sort of how I look at it, with how they declined.
Is that the thought, that what's happened and what we're heading into in this DLC is that they turned against each other, one by one kind of fell, and then Saladin is left over maintaining the Iron Banner to help other Guardians become strong enough to once again go and fight whatever this
well, that's where it changes,
evil
right?
is?
So Saladin's entire purpose when the Ironsbane has taken its place, when the rest of the Iron Lords are sort of have trapped themselves away and sealed SIVA with themselves, this is where it becomes really interesting, because remember that the Iron Banner, essentially, if you're looking at it from the activities of Destiny, it's like Gelion says, I thought we formed the Iron Banner to fight the darkness, not ourselves. So it's not a PvP thing as much as we associate it with that, it's a PvE thing. But Saladin, looking at the way that the Crucibles happened, he has his days in the city, because he's there, he's one of the individuals who runs the defense of the Battle of the Twilight Gap. So he quite clearly does go to the city after this. But when it comes to Lord Shaxx and him starting the Crucible, at that point Saladin then jumps in and reenacts the Iron Banner as a way of training a new generation of Guardians to become Iron Lords and to get ready for that challenge.
He knows what's coming.
He's well aware that one day SIVA is going to resurface, and so when SIVA does, this is the point at which Rise of Iron and the whole story emerges, and he's already been training us for 2 years. So now we are, you know, in the mythos of Destiny, we've been playing Iron Banner non-stop because the Taken King was dry of content. And now we finally get the payoff, which is Saladin is just looking at us and he says, after we've killed, like, 6 people with 1 Nova Bomb, he'll just be like...
So what you're saying, Life, is that Lord Saladin believes that even if you love PvE, you should play PvP to get your skills better. AKA PvP is better than PvE. Is that what you're saying?
Oh my God, Pope.
Nah, I don't think he said that at all.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I just no, but it's important.
I'm ready to see the chat explode.
No, but it's important to understand in the lore perspective. He knows what's coming, and he's like, let's not let our skills dullen. You know, let's put these difficult challenges where we can get better by fighting the best opponents we have, which is each other right at this time, right?
Yeah. And that's an initiative that isn't necessarily even his original idea, because after Twilight Gap there's so many different gaps in the city's defenses, right? It's one of these instances where everybody's trying to come up with their own solutions, and Shaxx's solution to this which he proposes to the consensus and evidently gets enacted, is to create the Crucible, a place where Guardians can train with live fire exercises, ghosts are standing by for resurrections and whatnot, and you can just combat each other and improve your skill. Saladin picks this up with the Tournament of Honor that he brings every month in the form of the Iron Banner. And so he's just sort of tacking it onto the Crucible. He does run his own ship with it, so to speak, but him and Shaxx don't necessarily coordinate. Shaxx's original idea is what you're talking about, though.
The really interesting thing with Shaxx, right, is Shaxx and Zavala were mentees of Lord Saladin. So they were under the training of Lord Saladin. Now, Lord Shaxx, from what we know, never became an Iron Lord, although he has the title of Lord. And it talks about in the Grimoire how the relationship between Shaxx and Saladin is strained. And I assume this came from Battle of Twilight Gap, because Lord Shaxx actually led a counterattack at Twilight Gap. So this is the one after Six Fronts. This is another battle.
This is where Gjallarhorn comes from.
Where Gjallarhorn was made, yeah. And Lord Shaxx basically had an army of his combat frames, and he led a counterattack that pretty much sealed victory. Now, Lord Saladin was actually in charge of the city's defences during this battle. So I have speculated that maybe Lord Shaxx broke command and went on his own to lead a counterattack, and it paid off. And now that's why he never, got given the title from Lord Saladin as an Iron Lord, but maybe the Tower saw him as an Iron Lord and gave him the title of Lord Shaxx. I think Lord Saladin believes that Lord Shaxx doesn't deserve that title.
I mean, I don't think that Shaxx is even gifted the title of Lord because of the Iron Lords whatsoever. I believe he's just the Lord of the Crucible, because there's no reference whatsoever to Shaxx being associated with the Iron Lords.
Exactly. Is there anything in the lore that says what being a Lord is, or what even an Iron Lord really truly means? Because right now,
being an Iron Lord and being a Lord are very vague. But technically, when we've got like all of the accomplishments, we get a trophy called Guardian Lord. Right. Okay. So that in itself is kind of a way of saying, like, you have surpassed. You're above and beyond. You are by far stronger than most of your other cohort. So, I think that's a way of establishing that. And simply for leading that defense at Twilight Gap, that could have been it. But again, we're not entirely sure. There is no distinct lore about why Shaxx is called a Lord.
Yeah. And didn't in the stream they say that we will become Iron Lords?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
that's curious. That's curious. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's.
I mean, we get the Iron Gjallarhorn, Iron Gjallarwing, and then become an Iron Lord.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't believe that. You can look. I guess if you look like a duck and you quack like a duck, you might be a duck. I guess, but I believe to be an Iron Lord, right?
You're a beaver.
Has to.
You're a beaver, yeah.
No, you're a beaver. No, I think that you have to reach that level. It's got to be the end game, right? To get that title. I mean,
probably.
I would argue
or at least
that
finish the story campaign. Right?
That's what I imagine. I think it's campaign ending. You
think
obtain Iron Lord, status, and then you must have that status in order to be able to go do the raid, which is, stamping out whatever SIVA evil remains.
Then I want my own statue at the end of this thing on a mountaintop, if that's going to be the case.
Please.
I already ordered mine.
There's some sculptors out there that'd be happy.
All I'm saying is that I better get a statue. If I'm going to be an Iron Lord and all, there better be a Pope Mountain out there in Destiny.
We unearthed this strange Golden Age American Empire relic. They appear to have carved faces in the mountain. We don't know what this place is, but we're going to put the Iron Lords there, because clearly these people were heroes at some point.
They did have Lord in their title, so that means something.
Well, even if I don't get a statue, I'm gonna pull out a can of spray paint and write Pope on the side of the of mountain, the Iron Mountain out there. Just gonna spray paint it. That's how us Americans take care of things.
Oh my God.
I'm glad that the Empire of America dies in the collapse. I'll just say.
Oh yes. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Cold-blooded.
Just throw that out there.
Cold.
That's gonna hit Twitter in about 2 minutes.
Yeah. Just kidding. I actually really freaking love America. aside from politics, but I despise politics generally after having studied it for 3 years. Anyway, off topic.
The interesting about statues, what about the Iron Wolf statues at Felwinter Peak?
Right.
What are they?
Yeah, the statues of the wolves.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, like what I expand on that. What I mean, so how many are there? Do we know how many there are?
So yes, I can't remember. Maybe you could fill this in by when the update happened. But after Iron Banner stuff, they introduced new Iron Banner gear, and with that came a whole bunch of items called Wolf's Wood something. So Wolf's Wood Hunter Cloak,
this
Wolf's Wood
was year
Warlock
2.
Bond,
This
Wolf's
was year
Wood
2.
Titan Mark, right? Yeah.
It was,
so,
yeah. And this describes the story of a sort of separate group of Iron... Well, I don't even want to call them Iron Lords, because even that sort of is weird, but they're called the Iron Wolves. And that's where the names of all the Year 2 weapons go. So, like, Wailor and Finala, Bretamart,
Collivants.
all of these are Collivants, you know. These are the
Ashray,
names where people are just sort of like, okay, are these really Iron Lords? Not really, because they're the Iron Wolves, but does that mean they're still sort of Iron Lords? Maybe they're a second generation that also dies out. And they're just... Maybe they are actually just named after the wolves.
Are they patrol? Like that patrol
So-
type of faction that you guys were talking about?
Well, so what happens if you put the item descriptions from the Hunter, Warlock, and Titan together? They sort of form a paragraph. So this is probably as much as we've got on them, and it says,
Yeah.
Okay.
In our darkest hour, 9 Iron Wolves emerged from the ruins. Under a red dawn, the Iron Wolves gathered beneath the Iron Wood, and beneath its branches, the Iron Wolves forged an unbreakable oath. So I've
we
always
know-
assumed the Iron Wolves came after the Iron Lords, but
I was going to say, yeah. I was wondering if that's post Iron Lords, and this is because from the ashes.
Yeah.
yeah, emerged from the ruins, and also under a red dawn. You know, like SIVA's got all these red colors, right? I wonder if that had something to do with it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And we see that the Iron Wolves are on the symbol for the Iron Banner. They are at the tree. The Iron Wolves are at the Iron Wood, forming an unbreakable oath. And I think it's really odd that the Iron Wolves haven't been mentioned. The issue with them coming after the Iron Lords is because we see a statue at Felwinter Peak. So does that mean that they were around at the same time for that statue to be there? Like, that would imply that they were there with Felwinter Peak with the Iron Lords, right? So maybe they didn't come after it. And I think I don't know. I think there'll be something about the Iron Wolves in Rise of Iron.
I mean, the really interesting thing about this as well is Saladin goes into some very interesting detail in a Grimoire cult called Ghost Fragment Abilities, and it's actually just his induction speech to the Iron Banner initiates. And in that, he talks about how each one of them is just, quote, a cold apple seed. So, I mean, for some reason it goes down into the exquisite detail of naming potentially even the tree and the wood of trees under which they were, actually being formed. So,
Wow.
yeah, the Iron Banner tree is probably an apple tree, right?
Well, there's a couple of interesting things on that, but with the Iron Wolves, if you look at their item descriptions, they've got things like mercy, like Nerwin's a mercy, Collivant's duty. They've got
All of them are positive, right?
they're
year
mostly
2.
positive, right? And if you look at the Iron Lords, they've got Felwinter's lie, Timur's lash, Scory's revenge, Radagast's
Galleon's
fury,
demise.
right? So I think there's some purposeful naming of the Iron Banner gear as well that might hint to some of the story.
Well, I think you guys kind of talked about it earlier, where the Iron Lords slowly got corrupted, and it's their treacherous acts that were helping to that the guns were named after, maybe.
Yeah.
Yolder's hammer. It's not exactly negative.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, even so, there's things like Aphrodite's spear as well by that extension.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
also Hakon's hatchet in year 2. I mean, some of them are just named after weapons, right?
Just
Yeah.
weapons, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting
That'd
how
be interesting,
the wolf ones seem definitely like I was saying, like a patrol faction, or the ones that were out in the wild, instead of the Iron Lords seemed, or at least maybe I picked this up wrong, but are the Iron Lords the ones that were defending, and then there was another group? No.
They're the ones patrolling as well.
They were patrolling as well. Okay.
You see, you're falling into the same place that we're falling into, where we just really don't know much about the Iron Wolves, so we're trying to fill in the gaps, but to no avail until we actually know, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So do you know with every expansion, maybe this is just going to be taking a guess, but every expansion there's something that happens in Patrol where we get like the sword or those cool little activities that happen. Yeah. Everyone has their own flavor version. What do you think the flavor version of this expansion is going to be? I mean, what are we going to get to do? That cave in the Cosmodrome, you go in there and you saw all the hive. Was it the hive praying to a sword? Right?
Yeah.
And so you see what I'm talking about, right? And then
so I'm going to say 3 words to answer your question, or at least what I think answers your question, Pope, because even though they mentioned it before at quite a key dramatic moment, I think that one of the flavor moments for Patrol is going to be a big effing axe. Right?
The axe relic.
Exactly.
So
that's what I think too. I think it's going to be
exactly.
big axe. Yeah.
That's going to be cool. Like, and you're going to have it for a specific amount of time, and then you're just going to be able to wreak havoc with everything.
I bet it's going to have a super on it too once it charges.
Yeah. It's
gonna,
probably
like the purple exotic, the purple exotic sword.
Dark
how
Drinker?
You can, So
Dark Drinker.
You spin it around you.
Yeah, the Dark Soul spin.
Imagine a super activity like that, but the hammer is so much longer that you're just like, and it cleaves the head off of everything that's around you.
Damn.
So I think when looking at it, you basically
That's
do a ground pound with it, if I'm getting this from like all the press packs, right? Because when there's so many shots of like Titans who are just like holding it down to the ground and flames being wreathed out from underneath them. And that's sort of like...
be cool.
Yeah. Speaking of cool weapons, this is kind of related but unrelated. Lore of the Iron Yalahorn, right? And why it's such a cool idea to have an Iron Yalahorn, right?
Right.
So the OG Yalahorn, it comes from the Battle of the Twilight Gap. The entire idea behind it is that there's these 2 guys called Phasal Crux and Lomar.
Yep.
Right?
Victor
and
Lomar, yeah.
Yeah, so basically they actually start this foundry quite long ago, and it produces top-tier rocket launchers. Truth is theirs, Yalahorn is theirs, Dragon's Breath is theirs. They make a lot of the rocket launchers that you get that are just legendaries and blues. But the cool thing about this is that when the battle is over, all these different areas of the city are trying to find ways to honor the Guardians that fell. And very specifically, Phasal Crux takes the armor of Guardians that fell in the Twilight Gap battle, and he forges them into a rocket launcher. And it's basically a way of saying, we're remembering you, we're honoring you, and through this, your light is going to get used again, and you're being able to fight again, So that's freaking cool. We forged the Iron Yalahorn on a very similar set of premises, because we forge it, according to like all the information we got before, out of relics of the Iron Lords, right? So instead of the armor of fallen guardians from the battle of this Twilight Gap, it's, the armor of, or relics rather, of fallen guardians who fought the Battle of Six Fronts at certain points, which is the other huge battle for the city. And so you have this almost parallel path for the 2 weapons, and in both instances you're forging something from the armor and relics of guardians that have been doing some truly legendary stuff.
So is that specifically the Iron Yalahorn?
Yes, specifically
not the Yalahorn that we're going to be able to craft in the story, but
No. The one that you craft in the story, if I'm not mistaken, you get a choice between the 2. The one that you craft in the story, the fact that you can choose an Iron Yalahorn skin for it is a way of saying, like, this is the actual version that you would have crafted. This is like the Iron Lord's Yalahorn, so to speak.
So this is definitely a different version, like even in the lore. Like
even in the lore, this is a new Yalahorn, right?
Yeah.
Like
interesting.
Yep.
So and that's
we sort of skipped over the Twilight Gap, didn't we?
Yeah.
So
Twilight Gap.
So Battle of Six Fronts was the first one, right? And the second one was Battle of Twilight Gap. And I always thought it was actually all of the fallen houses coming together, but I found a couple of cards last night actually that said otherwise, and they actually say
Exile
it was
certainly wasn't involved and whatnot.
Yeah, Kings, Devils, and Winter seem to be the main culprits for Battle of Twilight Gap. And what happened was the Queen of the Reef was pretty much in hiding. No one really knew she was in the Reef, and the Prince Aldrin picked up interception, like some transmissions from the Fallen, and although they couldn't understand it, Prince Aldrin realized that all the Fallen were starting to communicate, and so they had sent out a signal to House of Wolves to come join the Battle of Twilight Gap. So this massive fleet, with millions of ships, came from the House of Wolves, and the Queen basically put 2 and 2 together. She's like, the Fallen are talking to each other. We've got a massive House of Wolves fleet. And she gave herself 2 options. She said, we can either stay hidden and this last city will fall, or we could reveal ourselves and try to stop the House of Wolves. And so obviously she revealed herself. She stopped Skullwars. That was the whole House of Wolves expansion. The Reef Wars came after that. But that was the reason why we didn't fall at Twilight Gap, was because the Queen stopped the House of Wolves from coming to Earth.
Well, I think it's pretty badass that all these houses of this massive fleet. Even, do you think it would have mattered? I guess it mattered, but the House of Wolves didn't participate in that battle?
No, it didn't.
And so I imagine if they had participated, they could have overrun the city. But I think it's so awesome that that the city was able to be defended from that massive battle happened, and we were able to stop them. Now, did they have to? So they obviously did a head-on attack. Did they have to change tactics? Have they done anything differently now, or are we seeing a different strategy from the Fallen now?
They, as opposed to Battle of Six Fronts, I am thinking no, because at this point I'm believing that the transmissions between the Fallen are all kind of this joint sort of task force is the notion they're going with, right? Mm-hmm. One house is not enough to crack the thing, but, if we do have an entire legion of 4 houses at the time being, seeing as wolves were meant to be there, maybe would be enough. And with that, they don't really change tactics from what they did in the Battle of the Six Fronts. They go for the head-on assault, and this is where everything sort of goes forward. There's talk about how the guns of the city were firing non-stop, and the warlocks were working through the void to destroy the enemies. And it's,
Still firing on that map.
Yeah, yep. And you've got all sorts of other legends that were formed at the Battle of the Twilight Gap. So you guys remember the No Time to Explain exotic quest, right? Mm-hmm. There's a moment where you need to go to the actual Twilight Gap map, right? And there's a very cool mechanic in that where you run from pools of light, and you basically it undarkens your screen. You can actually see where you're going. The cool lore behind those pools of light is that those are places where a legendary hunter called Anna Bray fired a golden gun, and the light that she drew forth with her golden gun was so strong that it stays there to this day. And it's awesome. Still freaking there.
That's
you
dope.
guys have,
so cool.
It's like the coolest thing. It's like so strong that it actually stands up against the Taken and their darkness, which is like, that's directly saying, hey, these are beings that have come into contact with the most pure form of darkness, and the light is able to say, no, I'm still in an oasis.
So what you're saying is there's an example of an overpowered gunslinger hunter?
Celestial Nighthawk, essentially.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a brilliant little piece of lore. But
hearing you guys talk about this, what strikes me is how they've been setting this up. For the last longer than 2 years, but while we've been playing this game, they've been setting this up, and we didn't even really realize what was going on, because everything just seems to be coming to head with this Rise of Iron expansion in a really cool way. Finding out about the Iron Wolves, finding out about the Iron Lords, the Battle of Six Fronts, like you guys were saying. It's just so much of it seems to be coming together. And there's all these other tangents that we can't even explore right now. I'm sure we could have you guys on talking for 10 hours. About we haven't talked about the Vex or the the Cabal.
We have entire YouTube channels where we do this,
right,
Brian.
exactly. Which you guys, everybody should subscribe to. Myelin Games and My Name is Byf both have excellent series of videos about this stuff.
Absolutely. So, I don't know if we talked about this though, but did we talk about the Splicers and what we know about them so far?
No.
Go for it, Matt. Go for it.
As far as I knew before, there was never mention of Splicers in the Grimoire cards. Yeah. But on the website it says every fallen house has Splicers. Every fallen house had Splicers, body hackers and bioengineers. Now, I actually thought that, you know how the fallen can regrow their limbs? I thought, maybe the Splicers are actually the body hackers and bioengineers that help the fallen regrow their limbs. And now they're using the SIVA with it.
Interesting.
I mean, it's interesting in the distinction there, because there's two sides I think that you could interpret it as. For starters, you have to look at dregs no matter how you look at this, because they're the ones that have two arms, right? Well, on one side of the things, one side of the theory, if you're wrong, Matt, essentially they could be the ones that create the docking caps. So you know how dregs only have two arms? It's sealed off because they have these literal caps on their arms that stop them from growing. And that's the kind of part which I think Splicers would be involved in if they're sitting there. But also, it's things like, how Taniks technically has mechanical arms, how Varix also has mechanical arms. That's kind of the stuff that I think they're also responsible for. And the reason I tend to differ from you on this one particularly, Matt, is just because of the phrasing of some of the bits of flavor text in game. They say that if a dreg is ascends to the point where they can become a vandal again, then they are allowed to regrow their arm. It's a thing of saying it's like it's not a way of saying like you're gifted them back. It's you're allowed to regrow them.
Yeah, true.
But it's even so, if it is the case that the fallen do re-engineer and genetically engineer by that front, because again, we don't know. Like, if they do regrow the freaking arms, it's kind of an even cooler idea. But I want to go ahead and say this right now. It knocks me that they say, fallen houses have always had splicers. And meanwhile, everybody who knows the lore are like, what?
Splicers?
We've never... Who the fuck? Who the hell are these guys?
You've never looked hard enough. They've been there. They've been behind the walls in the Cosmodrome.
They're hiding.
Hiding.
Just because you don't see them doesn't mean they're not there.
And this is the House of Devils, the House of Devil Splicers, right? Is that what
yes,
this,
the ones we're facing in this are the House of Devils Splicers. But if all fallen houses have splicers, then there will be others out there. Point is that these ones have just found the lucky SIVA tech, so to speak.
They tapped into the SIVA, honey.
Yeah.
So why haven't we heard anything about the House of Kings that are also on Earth? Is that
because the kings are the Machiavellis, right?
This is the
really, and then and the House of Wolves are the lieutenants then. I'm sorry. I thought you were making a reference to Machiavelli's The Prince. Then, so
yes, but in this instance, it's the case of saying like, in Machiavelli, there's very specifically the one line where he says, you can let two enemies destroy each other, right?
Sure.
The Fallen are such shrewd negotiators when they do it perfectly, and the House of Kings are better than everyone else at it. And I think there's this common thread through most people who look at the lore and talk about it that essentially states that you have the kings positioning themselves as the house that never directly intervenes. They're always the ones that are waiting for everybody else to make their move before they make theirs so that they can react perfectly. Masters. They are the puppet masters. So a great example of this, the one mission where we encounter the House of Kings in the House of Wolves expansion, right? In that instance, it's like Skolas is directly asking their Kel to treat with him so that they can negotiate. And the House of Kings Kel doesn't even respond. He doesn't even come out of hiding. He or she, I suppose. They don't even come out of hiding at all. They send like 2 barons and a token force to treat with a single wolf baron. And it's just a way of saying like, no, bud, if you're really the Kel of Kels, you're probably going to find me, but for the time being, I'm going to hold my cards close to my chest.
Yeah.
We haven't seen their Prime Servitor, we haven't even heard of its name. We haven't seen their Kel, we haven't even heard of their name. We've never even seen their Archons or heard of their name. Even though Axor, the Archon Priest, technically does hold the colours of kings, he holds that yellow. He is technically, when he kills you, he's aligned with the House of Winter. It shows his little box, right? So we literally know almost nothing about the structure of the house. We know very little about their placement. We know that they have a post in the Cosmodrome and that they have intel there because they have the holographic projection of the Traveller. We also know that with the House of Kings, the bounty tracker keeps on talking about how Guardians recently neutralized a House of Kings watch post on Olympus Mons, so that's on Mars. Point is, they're like all over the place potentially. We have no freaking clue. Like they are everywhere and yet nowhere.
Interesting.
Prince Aldrin says this right about them in one of those Baron cards. Pretty much what I think this is a Grimoire card for what you just described, Byf. It says, look at it from the House of Kings perspective. Their power is matched only by their cleverness. They rule the devils from the shadows and came too close to toppling the city not once but twice. We don't know much about them, but we know this: the kings want the Traveller.
Oh wow, that's deep. This is some heavy stuff.
It was heavy.
I mean, think about it. The kings are, yeah, they're the ones behind the scenes that are making everything happen. Somebody in chat said that the House of Kings were part of the original, or may have been the original house of the royal dynasty of the fallen. Did Peeps say that?
See, that's what's so interesting about it, right? Because on the House of Kings, Varix I think says something about the kings. Says the kings act as though they are kings because that's what they are, right?
Okay.
So there's weight to that theory, and even with the fact that they were once a Lixni and now are fallen, houses still hold the banners of that they used to have as kind of these relics that they cling to, which really don't suit them as a race anymore. There's that air of nobility to them, even the way that captains walk and prowl around shows a variant of nobility, but at the same time they are still pirates. So yeah, they were probably once noble, and they probably did have a position as the House of Kings, as actual monarchs or actual rulers.
And like you were saying with the dregs having a class system, they can't, grow their extra limbs because they're not, they haven't become a vandal.
I mean, that's what's so sad about it, right? Like, class system is a great way of defining it, but it's not even really class, it's caste. It's a way of, like, class you can sort of move up and down, but the fallen system, even though you can technically move up and down the ranks, it's so freaking divided in comparison. There is, comparing caste systems, the untouchables to the ones who are at the very top, the Brahmins, if you're going to go with the Indian variant, and it's like chalk and cheese. If you compare a Kel to a Dreg, you put them side by side, and there are so many differences just based on the size. And that's not even getting into the fact that one has 2 limbs on its upper body, one has 4. One is capable of teleportation and massive shouts and wielding these massive weapons of war and is supremely intelligent. And
don't forget the foot stomps. Don't forget the foot stomps. The foot stomps. They've got massive foot stomps.
Anti melee foot stomps. Oh my god.
Yeah, I want one of those. That's my super. If I'm a fallen captain in the new Destiny, where we get to become a captain, work our way up. I want to choose the L1 and R1 is my foot stomp.
It's just a Titan smash with the foot.
Yeah, no cooldown in the Crucible, please.
No.
The description of it is just, quote, become OP.
I like it.
It's good.
I think Matt has one last point, and then we're probably going to wrap it.
Oh, well, what I was going to say with the dregs, what Varric says is that dregs have what he calls dreg strength, and that dregs are extremely dangerous because they have nothing to lose. And so they do suicidal charges to get that nobility and to work their ways back up the ranks. So that's also why House of Exile is considered to be the the dark horse in this whole situation is because they're just full of dregs, and they are really quite dangerous because they're desperate.
I mean, I really think that the whole lore behind the Houses of the Fallen is really playing into this new expansion. I mean, this stuff, I'm really glad that you had you guys on to talk about this, because this is given the perspective. I spent the day watching your 2 videos from your 2 channels. It was so much fun. I spent the entire day, and if I could just tell everybody in chat, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at these 2 guys and their lore videos, you need to. It's fun as hell. Subscribe to them. Byf's doing some great work with his Patreon. Byf, that Patreon, how does that work exactly?
So, sorry about that. I had myself muted there. So basically, long story short is I'm trying to not only do the extra lore stuff I do, which is just pure theory and explanation of different parts of the lore, but I also do things like the Book of Sorrows and the Video Grimoire, and that stuff takes much higher production value because you have to involve artists. So the Patreon, every month I use funds to dedicate things towards projects. So that'll be artists, animators, voice actors, etc. And then the excess basically goes to charity, and I let the people who are patrons of said group vote for which charities that goes to. If it's a small excess, like under $200, instead it's a giveaway because I want to make some reasonable contributions.
But you last month it was something like $800 you donated to a disabled children's charity, right?
Yes. So the first month we did about, I want to say it was about 650 to Seattle Children's, and the month after that it was just under $800, maybe in 700. I'm losing my figures now.
It's okay. It's okay.
But it was to Special Effect, which is a UK charity which helps disabled children enjoy video games. And it's like, you know, these are people, for example, if somebody has lost their limbs in an accident or because of meningitis, for example, they've found ways of allowing somebody to play a first-person shooter using nothing but their chin and their eye movement. And it's like these guys come up with ingenious solutions to help children enjoy their games. But yeah, I mean, like, if people want to go ahead and donate, basically it's a way of saying that you support the lore projects and you support the artists who do this. Most importantly of all, I don't take any of my Patreon money. None of it's there for me. It's very specifically you guys supporting the creation of that content. So that's, yeah, specifically.
I just wanted to give you a shout out, Byf, on that, and make sure that everybody in the chat and who's watching this knows that this is how this community gets together. And there's we don't fight against each other. We all support the same cause. And when I watch your videos, I get benefited from it, and I can bring back to the Planet Destiny podcast. It's just amazing. So keep up the good work, and I'm glad you're doing it, man.
Now, Matt, your side of the things, because you run Patreon too.
Yeah. So a little while ago, I think we mentioned I did a comic book for the Battle of Six Fronts. So like a video comic book that was funded for by Patreon as well. And more recently, I do sketches from each lore video. So I'll have a sort of a speculation at the end of the video, and I'll pay an artist to do those sketches, and then people vote on their favorite artwork, and they become like a desktop image that they can use. So exactly the same deal as Byf there. I use those Patreon funds to employ artists. So artists are pretty happy with the Destiny lore community at the moment. They're basically bringing the Grimoire cards to life. So yeah, I've got something very similar, and
yeah. Like, I mean, Matt, let's be brutally honest here. Both you and I, we're motivated very much by the same passion that is also a frustration, right? Like, we're sitting here being like, why isn't this a thing? It should be a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, throw it out there in game, and then we're also kind of like, but also kind of don't, so I can do that because I love making this stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Like, if they release like a comic book, I'll be like, oh well, now I can't make my own speculation of a comic book.
It's like, it's great, but it's also frustrating at the same time, right? Like, you wish the universe was more fleshed out, but at the same time, it's...
You know what I wish?
You know.
I wish I had a better set of headphones to listen to right now. I'm just going to put on a better pair of headphones. You know what, Briar? You know what these are?
Those look like blue headphones to me.
Yes, they are. And as a matter of fact, they're insane. And when I really want people to hear me... I bring in a blue mic to talk to them.
That's not even the same mic, but okay.
And then when I really want them to hear me, I bring in another one. That's how they hear me clearly. Get it?
Oh
Stereo.
my
That's
God.
how we do stereo.
Hilarious.
That
You don't
there,
wanna see-
son, is why this podcast is great. Sponsored by Blue Headphones.
Sponsored by Blue.
If
For a
you
little
wanna be
while,
heard,
anyway.
Get it? Got it? Good.
You
I
don't
think
want to know
Patrick's-
what he was doing with those before the show.
Patrick's gonna love that blue ad copy. He's gonna think that's perfect.
Yeah, I
done,
think
man.
you're right.
That transition, though, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. 100%.
I think it's Twitter question time then, right?
Yeah.
All right. First question comes from @AshWFO. What Sparrow model do you prefer, the originals or the SRL type of Sparrow?
I like them. I like them both. I mean, sometimes I prefer the SLR style with that, boxy aerodynamics, and then other times I'm like the OG Volta Glass one. I dig. Like,
I like the
I
Red
can't-
Bull one. I like the Red Bull one
Oh yeah,
with the flames on it.
Yeah.
The trick Sparrow.
That is
was
cool.
dope.
That is cool.
That was dope.
None
I like
of
it
them,
'cause
like,
not a lot of people
specifically
have
I
them.
only use though.
It's got to be the racing frame for me. Like,
Yeah.
I like things that are bulky, but, well, not bulky, large but elegant, so to speak. This I don't know, this maybe speaks to my taste in women as well. Point is, racing frame, particularly yellowing coming out, it looks fantastic. I fell in love with things like the, what's it called? The Soul Scout when that came out. So in love that I decided I needed to make like a freaking Honda level commercial for that nonsense. And then I
Oh, that
realized how
was great.
sad I was.
That was awesome.
Point is, if it's large but elegant, that suits me. So yeah, it's got to be the racing frame.
Well, I don't know. I think if that's going to be the case for me, then it's I really like the sound of the sparrows, the new ones. There's one where when you get onto it, it's like
Yeah.
and it just and then you take off. So if that's the case, then I really like my women to sound great. I don't know.
So you want it to sound like Star Wars speeders?
I'm just trying to keep going with what Byf was saying. I mean, he said it's his taste in women also tied in.
You
with
like your woman
sparrows.
to go. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, I like her to go. Whoop, 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 whoop.
You saying you like the whoop whoops?
I like the whoop whoops. I don't know.
You,
I don't know,
you-
Briar. What do you? Yeah.
Can I just say thanks to everyone, because I actually unfortunately need to head off. And so yeah, can I just say a big thanks to everyone for joining today, and hope to see you soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on. We
Yeah.
learned a lot
Thanks,
today,
man.
Myelin.
Okay, you
Awesome,
want to
man.
shout out your social links and all that, just so everybody
Yeah.
who's listening right now can follow you.
Yeah, sure.
In case they aren't
So youtube.com/c/Myelin Games. Twitter handles just @Myelin Games as well, and same with Twitch.
And
So
how would we
he-
spell Myelin, just in case somebody's wondering?
MYELIN Games.
Boom. Make sure to
Right.
give Myelin a follow. He's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for
Thanks,
thank you
man.
for coming on today.
Let's catch
Yeah,
up
sorry,
and
I
do
have to leave
another
early.
lore collab at some point soon, dude.
I had a lot of fun today. That was really cool. Spitballing through all that. I'm used to talking to myself for 45 minutes rather than having someone else to help out. So that was really cool, man.
That was perfect.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank
I'll
you.
see you guys soon. Bye.
Catch you soon.
@Tyaka93, Randal the Vandal is the final boss in the Rise of Iron raid. What are his mechanics and how do you cheese him?
He's a bullet sponge. You can shoot everything and anything at him, and it only takes the concentration of every single piece of firepower you have to kill him.
2
Interesting.
words, 1 word, icebreaker.
Man. I don't know, Byf. What do you think?
I'm thinking along the lines of what Pope was saying, but I think you're dramatically underestimating the amount of firepower that it would take to kill Randal the Vandal, because you got to keep in mind he is quite a Randalous Vandal.
Mm-hmm.
He is vandalized everything, and he is scandalously Randal. So You've got to give him credit. I think that you would do 1 damage if you had all of your firepower going at it once.
Ooh.
And this guy he'd have the least health out of any raid boss, but 10,000 health when you're dealing 1 damage at a time is still quite a lot of health.
That's going to take some time. That's some chip damage right there.
I'm bringing my
chip away at him.
I think I know what's going on here. Going off the lore that I learned today. I can tell
Here we go.
Randal the Vandal has slurped up a ton of ether. And that's why his health points are massive. All right?
That's right.
So there's going to be a mechanic where you have to cut off his supply of ether, and then there's a cooldown before he repatches it, and that's when you can do damage to him.
Tefty's
Randall
Killed it.
Randall the Vandal is a crackhead on ether, basically. And
I just gotta get that ether fix, you know.
yeah,
them
he's just
ether
Gotta get ahead of
seeds.
that ether.
Y'all got any more of that ether?
so we got to cut off his supply. So to get to him, we have to fight all the mini bosses along the way that cut off his supply of.
Yeah, he would obviously have dregs, because dregs are the low form, you know, and they...
His drag dealers, perhaps.
Yeah, his drag dealers. Nailed it.
That's it.
We're done here. We cracked the lore of Rise of
man.
Iron.
We found it.
3 phases of drag dealers, and then you can take him down.
DPS phase.
Each damage phase of his cut off ether supply.
At Peyton Vowel, how do you guys like your eggs, and why is it scrambled?
Oh man.
It's scrambled because it involves throwing in milk and butter into the recipe if you're doing it properly,
Yes.
as well as a little bit of salt and a little bit of cracked pepper. It's just the best way of doing eggs. It's most versatile. You can do it with almost anything.
Do you beat them or just pour them in? And let
Oh,
them
I
cook?
just pour them into a saucepan and let them do their thing, and then stir
You
a little
don't
bit.
you
when
don't
it's
you don't
getting
take a fork and whip them.
I mean, I do that before I throw it in the pan if it's an omelet, but no.
Okay. Interesting.
They're scrambled because nobody knew how to poach eggs properly.
I don't eat
hear you.
scrambled eggs.
I don't either.
I don't do scramble. I have a very specific egg technique. I got the perfectly weighted pan for the perfect flip. I don't use a spatula. What I do is I drop a nice healthy amount of butter in there. I fry up 2-3 eggs, give it the proper toss. Try not to break the yolk, and then I throw some Cholula sauce on top. Cholula on top
That sounds
of those
delicious.
eggs.
All right.
Delicious.
That sounds fiery.
So the only problem with scrambled eggs is that it doesn't include bread. Now, my eggs, I cut a hole.
Do your
in the
eggs magically include bread?
So I take a
Bread
slice
and
of
eggs.
I take a slice of egg. I take a slice of bread. I cut a hole in the center, and I put an egg in the middle, and it's egg in a hole. And I fry it in a pan, and then I flip it, and it's over medium. And so when you cut in, it's the egg runs out, the yolk runs out, and you get a little bread in there.
Absolutely. I'd
That's
eat
it.
that.
That's not a terrible idea. I should try that sometime.
Egg in a hole. Use it.
Have you? Oh, now we're getting into really chef's things. Have you tried doing that with brioche bread?
Oh, I go deep. Sometimes I do raisin bread, and sometimes it's just.
Because dude,
Go
doing
deep.
it with a brioche.
Sometimes I do raisin bread.
You should do like French toast raisin bread with an egg on top,
Yeah,
man.
dude. I mean, I get crazy. I'll throw.
Pope gets crazy, guys. Watch out. Think he's been visiting some of them drug dealers.
I'll drop a sourdough slice in there every once in a while.
God damn.
Damn.
He likes his toast and eggs like he likes his women. Okay, maybe this is an inappropriate joke.
No, I go with it. Just I want to hear how that. No.
You said there's
I
a
was-
hole in the...
I was gonna start with I was gonna go back to the deep thing, but you could
No,
really
it's
do
okay.
anything with that, right? Like if
Yes.
it's sourdough, he likes them grumpy or something. If it's brioche, you could say he likes them nice and sweet.
Yes,
You know.
that's very good. Very good.
You can throw this around as like a compliment or an insult in many different ways, I think.
True.
No, they're all compliments in my book.
Whatever happens, I'm trying your recipe.
Do it. It's gonna be good.
At Alexander Hour 1, how is Pope doing?
I'm doing great.
Didn't you have 5 things you wanted to say?
Yeah, there was a checklist, man.
There's a checklist.
I've been gone for 4 months from Destiny, and then I came back,
Yes.
And I have 5 things to say about the state of Destiny, in which I'm going to call the WTF segment.
Awesome.
He's got a list. It's on
Five
paper.
Actually,
It's on paper.
Formalized an official list.
It's written, scribbled, but it's a list, and they're scribbled for a reason, because this piece of paper started every time I was playing. When I got back, and I just went, "What the?" All right. First thing, trip mines. What the what happened to them? All right, and I'm not going to go into more than just they no longer work. So they took an active skill of sticking somebody with a grenade, and then now it's gone. Now it's not, and then it's cone of damage. We're gonna move on. Second thing, second WTF of me coming back after not playing for 3 months. Juggernaut Titans and shotguns? What? Why would you ever give the tankiest class the most mobility with a powerful primary universal remote, and then give them a shield in front of them? What the? All right, so that was 2. Third one.
Also, it can tank a gold gun shot because it's treated as a separate entity like the bubble.
It's great.
Unbelievable.
Are you
It's so
serious?
exciting. Yes. Yes.
I have not encountered enough
All right,
Jug Titans
so-
on my gunslinger to do that. Good lord.
3.
It's awful.
Number
Oh,
3.
that's horrible.
I am pissed that they continue to name the skip grenade a skip grenade. I am upset that they haven't changed the name to tracking death balls of doom grenades. I mean, honestly, it really should be called the tracking death balls of doom, because it's not skipping anything. It's hop, skipping, jumping, you following, you like. It's more tracking than freaking the grapes.
It's the Liam Neeson nade.
It's a Liam Neeson grenade. So that was my third moment since I've come back. 4, special weapons. Why is there? We have ammo galore. I have proven on stream that I can just spend the entire time running around with a shotgun and never, ever worry about finding shot ammo. I don't even need to bring out my primary. It doesn't even exist. I'm excited that we have special weapons in this game. All right. What the?
I'm always constantly running out in PvE, though.
True.
It's just ridiculous. All right. Now, fifth thing that has been, and this one was just the most recent one, but solo queuing in Iron Banner. What the? I did an entire class where I solo queued Iron Banner, and a third
Why did you
of
do
the
that
games,
to yourself?
just to prove a point, a third of the games put me into games that were almost done. And one of them even put me into a screen where they were flying in. I put it up on Twitter. It's like, you know that screen where you've got the warp drive, and it said, "Enemy team has captured C. Enemy has all positions. Game over."
Yeah,
You've got
The
to learn
audio's
something.
playing
You've
while
got to
you're still
learn
flying
something
in. I've
from
had
this
that too,
Guardian.
yeah.
Dude,
I haven't even
And it has
landed
the, like,
yet,
the loss
and it's like,
and wins
"You've
next
lost,
to it."
Guardian. Learn something from this mistakes." And I'm like, "What the?"
No, you've lost, God.
Yes. And then I don't even touch boots on the ground. I spawn into the the end screen where I get no rewards. So, thanks. But outplayed on that. Outplayed. So that's about a third of my solo queuing in Iron Banner, and I don't know if that's just my experience, but it was the WTF moment, and that rounds out my 5 WTF moments of returning back to the game after 4 months and just wondering where I'm at.
Can I just toss an addendum on there? Number 6,
Sure.
a Tefties 6, red bars.
Unholy red. Like adding a 7th, green bars that are actually red bars.
Definitely.
Because I mean, like,
Definitely.
that's been an issue for the longest
That's
time.
going
but
on
for
the
me,
list,
it's- For
That's
me,
going on the
it's been the bane of my existence, right? Like,
Green bars that are red.
I faced up against these teams, right, where the enemy is literally just like, there's a wall and there's the enemy and there's just like walking into said wall, you know? And it's, I'm just sitting there being like, okay, I'll pull up my ghost and I'll check the connection. And apparently everyone is almost completely green bar, and it's just like, it's missing that tiny little speck at the very top to show that it's full green. I'm like, I see your nonsense. I see your BS. No.
You're not fooling anybody.
You're not. No, I'm sorry. I'm screenshotting this because this is nonsense. Like, no way in freaking hell are you a green bar.
Guaranteed
But-
Fellwinter was one of those green bars. Guaranteed.
That's the lie.
You know
Changing the red bar to a green
Like,
bar.
No, man. I'm a green bar. I'm a green bar, and I got to open that, and my internet's good, honest.
And he's the guy that sends you a message, get good, scrub. Yeah.
Yeah.
My God, why are you so
game.
laggy?
Teabagging you all over the place.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
teabags you.
Good game.
And when
Well,
he's
you're bad.
teabagging you, he's like lagging around while he's doing it.
I want
Yeah.
someone to make like
It's like a
a
taken teabagger.
Yeah, he's like.
I want someone to make a piece of art where it's just like a warlock walking into a wall, and then someone like a hunter walks up to him and asks Fellwinter, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Dude, chill, I got this." There's just like nothing else to it. And the hunter's just confused as hell and then walks away.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good stuff.
Also,
Maybe in
my
the last frame,
experience,
it's like 6 kills with a shotgun on the wall.
So-
He's still
Exactly.
walking into the wall.
he's on the top of his team, and he's walking into a wall.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other thing
And-
about the red bars that I experience. They usually, not always,
Are at the top.
but consistently end up being in the top 3 positions.
And so
Lag
basically,
bag.
Briar, to answer your
Lag
question,
bag.
that's when I've been up to. I've been writing
Yeah.
lists.
Thank you, Alexander,
good
for
list,
asking
man.
that question.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great list. You should, you need to frame it, post it, you know.
Oh, it's going
I'll
up on the
retweet
wall.
that list.
It's going up on the wall.
Right
I'm
now.
gonna frame.
Well, they just
Fellwinter's
did a-
going
they
to
just
walk
did a
into it all
vote.
day.
They just did a vote in chat as to which is their best argument, and I'm gonna find out what the results here are. 26% of people believe that my best argument is the Juggernaut Shotgun Skating Titans, closely followed by the Trip Mines, and then solo queuing and Iron Banner. That's how it all played out by people in chat.
Strong
This is a
argument.
side tangent. It's related, but do you guys think it's weird that you can spec for the lowest agility on a Titan and be the fastest person in the match? Do you think it's weird?
No, it's as intended. It's balanced.
As intended.
balanced.
Stop getting outplayed.
Whoa,
You think, yeah?
you gotta learn.
just
You
get
gotta
outplayed
learn.
GG.
No,
L2P,
Tefty, you
bruh.
gotta
Because
learn.
when I spec for max armor, or when I spec for full armor and recovery on my no backup plans defender and went no agility, and I was like, wow, I'm beating everybody in speed. I was like, it's the scuff. It's because I'm using a scuff. I'm cheating.
Oh, yeah.
because I'm using a scuff.
Sure.
That's why.
You're cheater
No,
control.
you're just taking advantage of the new meta and playing to your for the win. So,
Yeah. Yep.
Clearly.
I'm gonna go play Minecraft.
yeah.
No Man's Sky is right
These
around the
scrubs
corner.
in Destiny can't handle me. I'm going to go 360 no scopes and freaking creepers. Let's do this.
All right.
At
Anyway,
Unicron asked, do Bungie need to test outside their own network? I get the feeling that their setup doesn't reflect a typical user.
I can try to answer this because I've seen
have
their
experience,
setup.
right?
Yeah, they have some models that test they do it extensive. Bungie is probably, I guess people don't understand how really complicated it is to create a world like this. And I got a chance to talk to some of the smartest people I've ever met, and talk to them at Bungie about like the game neck design, and 99.9% of it I just couldn't grasp around like how freaking complicated it is. And it is impossible to have a test that tests for every millions of connections across the globe. It's just literally impossible. They have a very exhaustive list of being able to test environments, but sometimes you just gotta stick it in there to find out if it works.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Agreed.
we can all
Good
agree
advice.
to that, right? That's all
Nobody can
solid
argue
advice.
that.
Nobody can argue that.
That is how it works.
That's how it works.
You just got to stick it in and hope for the best. Okay, let's do this.
Right.
Yeah.
At Solo McFadden, thoughts on people saying strikers need a nerf? I've heard so much complaints on shoulder charge and Juggernaut. I don't know what you're talking about, Solo McFadden. I think everything's fine.
Everything is perfectly fine in the Crucible. Mm-hmm. You just,
Yeah.
Move along. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see
here.
Move along.
just everybody play their Titan and skate around with a shotgun. That means that, and win games that way. That's good.
It's very effective.
Very
I will
effective.
say.
Yeah.
Very effective.
I mean, like, this is the problem with Striker Titan for me is I don't want it to get nerfed in the same way that Sunsinger does, because right now it's a class that's brilliant to play because it has so many tools. Lightning Grenades are amazing for zoning people out. Shoulder Charge and Juggernaut are both great perks depending on which kind of style you're playing. Titans generally get great exotics to go with them. You were talking about no backup plans earlier, but I mean, you could go ahead and talk about Armamentarium in the same way. It's very powerful still. I think that Bungie, if they do nerfs Strikers, and I think they will, they need to be very careful about what they choose to nerf, because let's say that, you know, they don't think Titan Skating is something that should be happening because they're meant to be a low mobility class, so to speak. If that's going to be something that they nerf, they then need to be very careful about how they then treat the rest of the subclass, because then maybe Juggernaut is more balanced. They don't need to follow up with a nerf on that.
Right.
I keenly don't want it to be like Sunsinger, because like prior to this patch where, you know, fireballs became powerful again, you know, they were completely useless, and everyone was like, okay, Sunsinger's just got gutted. There's almost no reason to use them aside from the self-res, and how many clips do we make in trials of just, like, you know, killing people on the self-res with one bullet to the face?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's situationally pretty good, but aside from that, it's just meh.
It's weird because they just got buffed a year ago. Strikers got a major buff with the Taken King, or shortly after the Taken King.
Huge.
Yeah.
And nobody really realized how powerful they were. It seemed like it took a while.
Yeah.
And then the Sunsingers and the Hunters got major nerfs, and now the Strikers really do kind of stand out.
Like, this is the thing. I also don't know how you nerf Shoulder Charge without making it irrelevant, right? It's either a one-hit kill perk or it's just a glorified melee.
Well, they just fixed that in a recent update. Right around the April update, they fixed the hit detection. All they got to do is break that again.
Hey, Brian. No, there is nothing wrong with... I mean, I'm going to get some hate on this, but there is nothing wrong with Shoulder Charge. It is a conscientious class ability that you should have to spec for to take advantage of, right?
Yep,
so you should have to, in order for it to be effective, you should have to select increased agility, right? All I'm saying is that in order to use it, you should have effectively. You should have to, and a Titan. What's broken right now is that Titans, no matter how armor spec'd out they can be, are super fast.
So you're talking about the Titan Skating.
And I know people. I know people love it. I know people love it. I love it. But really, honestly, for that class to be brought in line with all the rest, it just you shouldn't be able to be a tank and be fast. So Titan Skating is broken.
Yeah.
That's what's broken.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like what Holtz was saying about the problem with shotguns in this game right now is not shotguns themselves. Yes, they do have quite a bit of range, but it's the fact that the mobility in all the classes really, but especially the Titan right now, because you can spec for high armor, high recovery, and low agility.
With Juggernaut, you have incredible amount of armor.
Exactly, and you're ridiculously fast. So you can fly around the corner and just boom, you got your shotgun shot right there. Boom. Fly around the corner, shotgun. Fly around the corner, shotgun. That's actually the problem with the encounters right now. The maps are designed for close encounter combat,
right.
And then you can fly around the corner as a Titan Skate. Same thing with Hunters. You can get incredible speed and that type of thing, and shotguns just lend themselves even more to the either fly around the corner with the Jug Shield, shoot, or slide in with a shotty as you fly around the corner.
It just means that if they brought it in line, let's assume that Titan Skating didn't exist, right? And in order to activate your Juggernaut Shield, or in order to activate your Shoulder Charge, you had to get up to speed, and your Titan's speed was predicated on what armor you selected. So if you were lighter weight or higher agility, your Shoulder Charge or your Juggernaut Shield would proc sooner and last longer.
Now that's a very interesting idea.
If you're max armor and low agility, it's going to take you longer to get up to speed. You're going to have to, and therefore your Shoulder Charge and your Juggernaut Shield will last less amount of time.
Here's the problem though. The problem is that the Titan isn't really truly a tank class. It just looks tanky, but it takes the same amount of bullets as a Warlock or a Hunter to take down. regardless
unless
of
you're
that
using
shield.
unless you're using like the lowest impact auto rifle. But even then, you're right. It's like
Yeah.
the difference of 1, maybe 2 bullets if you're lucky.
Exactly.
The Titan, the Striker
negligible.
Titan, the Striker Titan maxed armored with Headstrong can tank a
Golden
you
gunshot.
you can get
Old golden gunshot rather.
right. You can get hit by a Titan shoulder charge and survive.
But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's like
So there's no
With-
other
with-
class that allows that. So if as
Can a
maxed out-
Ramlock do that?
Ramlock can
can a Ramlock do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, you
Ramlock
need to
can do
be
it.
you need to be fully spec'd, but I mean, it
Yeah.
needs to
Yep.
be fully spec'd to survive anything anyway.
Anyway,
Yeah.
these are just ideas I had. It's obviously there's lots of stuff that they can do, but I just don't think that something like a glitch like the movement speed. I don't think Bungie intended Titan skating to be the appropriate way for Titans to move around the map. I don't think
Yeah.
that that's how they planned Titans to move around the map.
So
Yeah, I
to
think so.
answer
I agree.
Solo McFadden's question, not really thinking about much on the Strikers.
Nah,
Ready to leave
they're
that
good.
alone.
They're
Irrelevant.
balanced. Just get good, kid.
Hashtag working as intended.
Yeah.
At
Hashtag balance.
JMM26, refresh the Iron Banner. Instead of 6v6, 4 teams of 3. Strong team play of Trials of Osiris, but also the chaos of Iron Banner. A change option we need?
Multi-team games is interesting. Halo had that, and it was a lot of fun
Yeah.
to get jump into.
Now,
Multi-team.
what's to stop a group? So this is the interesting thing, right? Like, obviously, alliances can quickly dissolve as quickly as they could form, but what's to stop 3 teams from ganging up on 1? Like, I mean, aside from the obvious fact that everybody's got the scoreboard on there and whatnot, like,
Yeah.
imagine if, you very specifically go into one lobby and you all matchmake and try and get that same lobby. Even if it's just 2 teams are together, all of a sudden, everybody else has a huge disadvantage.
I don't know if this belongs in Iron Banner. I would like to see it in maybe a custom game like that I can create. I don't know if it belongs in Iron Banner.
Yeah. Like, team play is emphasized by the fact that it's always 2 teams, right? It's 2 versus...
Yeah.
Sorry, 6 versus 6, rather.
You
What
start
I'm most-
solo queuing in a 4-team event, you're never going to get those coins cashed in.
I know they're not going to do this, but I would love to, in Rumble Pit to see King of the Hill.
I would like to see that too.
That'd be cool.
Inferno King of the Hill, or not Inferno, but Mayhem King of the Hill.
That would be awesome.
That'd be fun.
I love it. I love
That
it.
would be amazing.
Mayhem Rumble is
Okay,
like my
you know
favorite
what-
thing.
you know what
When that
that's gonna
comes around,
be?
that's all I want to do for the week.
Dude, you know what that's going to be? It's going to be Fun Police to the end of days, because someone will just bubble on top of the hill, and anybody who tries to come near them, unless it's a Striker Titan or a Warlock who's got Shatter, it's just going to be suppressed, bam to the face.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
It would be.
That
it
would
would
be
be
the meta.
freaking cool.
At JMM26, I just read that one. At Christ298, is the radar overpowered? How can it be overpowered? I can't tell. It's all lit up in red. I have no fucking idea where the guy is.
It's not overpowered. It's just like
I'd say that if you know how to use it, it's pretty good. But
Yeah.
it's a key component of mind skill, but mind skill is only ever at most half the equation. I don't
I think
it's
it reaches
necessarily
out too far.
overpowered.
It's
think
too hard
it's
to
too
get
big,
flanks.
yeah.
I'm with you, Briar.
And
I
that
think it
that
covers
center
too wide of-
circle,
Actually,
I wish was more specific.
You know what? Another reason why close encounter shotgun works so well also is because of how the radar works.
All right.
It's true.
You know, if I know a lot of people wouldn't like this, but if it adopted more of a if you're running, you're on the radar. If you're walking, you're not on the radar type of scenario. I think the encounters would be, I think they'd be a lot more varied because I don't know, it's either you're hard scoping or you're rushing with a shotgun right now in the Crucible. That's what I see.
Makes me wonder if they should do some way of making it so that high mobility players, after a certain amount of time, it locks onto them. So if you're evading somebody and you know there's a shotgun who's chasing you, and they've been on your radar for, let's say, 5 seconds, maybe it changes from a lit up segment to an actual dot where you can actually track their proximity. That, I think,
That's
changes the game fundamentally.
Well,
And
most of the engagements by far under 5 seconds. They're like 3 seconds long, 2 seconds. I mean, most of the engagements, the time to kill in Destiny is really really
It's very
high.
short.
Yeah, it's really short. I mean,
But what I would say though is that's a way of taking mind skill and changing the way that the equation works. Because if you know, for example, that the team has a lot of shotgunners, and if you can tell from the way that the radar is working that the person's just gunning it straight for you, your incentive is now to backpedal, potentially even just go and sprint in the opposite direction. And with that in mind, you then have the ability maybe to, cut them down on radar, so to speak, get that individual dot in place, and from there you totally change the way the engagement works, It's a way of, lengthening out the actual kill times. And, I can immediately imagine there's going to be a PvPer out there, or two, who just say, "Byf, you're freaking stupid, why would you suggest something like that," etc., etc. I'm just throwing out my thoughts and opinions.
I love getting into games in Inferno, and I think that there should be some the solution is kind of a balance between that. Remember in Halo 3 where when you moved, you would show up as a dot, something like that. Let's just say it's more like Inferno rules, but when you shoot or use your abilities. If you use any of your class ability, you appear on the radar.
Like a double jump or something like that?
Yeah. Any type of ability.
Because with Titan skating, they're permanently on the radar as a dot,
That's right?
right?
That's right.
That's a great idea.
That would be a good counter to somebody who's skating all the time, is they get more radar, or they're on the radar more.
They'll they'll draw the attention of multiple players. I mean, it's a risk reward.
I like that.
Yeah. I really do feel like right now, the radar lends too much to the close quarter combat. A lot of people are saying, well, if you took it away to where you don't appear on the radar when you're walking and only when you're sprinting or doing ability stuff, they say more camping's going to happen. Well, camping already happens. People
are just crouching in corners all over the place.
Camping isn't a dominant strategy in Destiny anyway, because the grenades are so strong. I mean, you've always had the ability to throw a bounce in most multiplayer shooters, right? So we have the incendiary and suppress grenades, and I guess flashbangs for that same purpose, right? But when freaking firebolts are there, and the minute you hit someone with that, you know exactly where they are from the ticking dots. But the minute you throw an arc bolt, it's practically the same, even though you only get the one big tick. They've already half lost that engagement. They're down on everything. All you need to do is get the right angle. You could jump over them when you go in there. The mobility completely negates the fact that people have the ability to sit there and camp, I think.
Yeah. Plus, if you get killed by somebody who's camping the corner and you go back there, you're going to know how to kill them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And are there many good camping spots in Destiny aside from those few bits where, you got those outcrops where people will sit down and snipe, in which case it's hey, just counter snipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get you once, but then they're there.
You can flank.
Yeah, you just flank them and then shoot them down.
Flank, nade, yeah.
At Johnny Knight, could the SIVA be a new elemental damage subclass? In the ride-along, all the weapons shoot red rounds from AI. Thoughts?
They did not indicate a elemental marker on the weapons in the sort of HUD in the bottom left, because all elements that have an elemental type will do that. I think that SIVA weapons are just going to be really powerful. Stuff that's,
Think they're just kinetic?
Yeah, I think the primaries will be for sure, but I'd say that most of the other stuff will have some kind of elemental damage. It's something I was discussing with a whole bunch of different people. I've talked about this on Guardian Radio, I've talked about this with other YouTubers, but how do you make something that's red change element, so to speak? How do you translate that into void damage or arc damage? Because solar, it feels fairly obvious, with the Vex, but aside from this, it's just kind of
Yeah. Seems like a weapon modification more than anything.
Yeah.
Perk modifications.
I like those modificators.
Yeah, I got the modificators.
Modificated weapon.
What do we got, Briar?
At a ringing hat 638, would you like a theater mode to make dank montages? Laugh out loud. P.S. could be the new feature to replay matches from other angles.
I want that for machinima. Forget montages.
So
I want to tell my own freaking stories. Ugh.
Yeah.
Please, Bungie.
Halo had such great machinima.
Well, the screenshots, the art, the in-game art that came from that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And all they had was grenades and stuff like that. Imagine if we had, with all the supers and abilities, the colors that teams could go into a game and or a private match, and then create a scenario where maybe a warlock is shooting their Nova bomb in front of like a bunch of things lighting up in the background, and then you go in there and you take a screenshot of that. Some of my favorite art coming out of Halo was the in-game photos that people took.
Yeah,
it's just great.
Yeah.
So phenomenal.
Machinima, like all sorts of stuff comes to mind from this.
Oh, absolutely. There was a video that was released in 2008 that I had never watched. But one of my subs, ME2557, he sent it to me. He was like, "This is why Halo 3 is fantastic and still relevant." And this is Machinima of guy gets a no scope. Guy gets a no scope in Halo 3. And then somebody walks up, he's like, "You got a what? Did you get a no scope?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I got a no scope." And the other guy comes up, he's like,
Yeah.
"You got a no scope."
No.
Oh, it was so good. And then they're doing like a coordinated dance and all that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the other guy walks in, he's like, "Hey guys, I just got a no scope." And he's like, "He got," and then the video ended. It's so good. Oh,
Like, I mean,
Yeah, that's a
Destiny-
classic.
forget
Dude,
about
that was
just,
classic.
Destiny
like,
would be incredible with that stuff.
forget about just comedy stuff like that. If anyone is like wondering why I really want to get into stuff like this and why I want a theater mode in Destiny, look up Rise of the Spartans. It's by a machinima director called Arbiter617. This is literally like 12 full hours worth of Halo Reach machinima that it tells a story that is admittedly cheesy on so many different levels, but it just shows this thing is Lord of the Rings in length. It has great character development throughout the whole freaking thing because of how freaking long it is. And it's incredible the stuff that has been able to happen with this. I mean, look it up and watch, and you'll see why I'm so freaking excited to get Destiny in theater mode.
Yeah.
Like, there is potential in reams with this game.
Yeah,
You just need to be able to tap it.
Yeah, completely agree.
You can learn so much too from a theater mode. Like, besides the creative aspect, learning from your mistakes, watching spawns, watching your own movement around a map, like just replaying a Crucible match for yourself in theater mode can be so enlightening.
And you can explore the map.
Yeah, you can explore the map.
For example,
Yeah.
did you know that on the Cauldron there are dead Cabal, and on the dungeons there's dead Fallen in the map?
I didn't.
You can find them if you're
Interesting.
just running around in theater mode, or alternatively, if you look at one of the spawns in the Cauldron, or just opposite B flag in where the heavy ammo spawns, basically on the lower side of the dungeons. Just go ahead and look there. But if you never had the time, if you were just quickly scrambling for the heavy, you might never have noticed that. You might never have seen. Like, this is what it gives us the opportunity to do potentially.
Yeah.
At MQ9 Reaper, do you think Bungie would invite some content creators to help with future raids? Dotto and Holtzman would be great at it.
I think if they're going to do anything like that, they're going to actually employ them. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
That seems like the logical step.
like, I mean, at this point, it's like you're sitting there with Luke Smith at the helm for most of the raid team design stuff. So it's in safe hands as is. As for whether they would want to get the guys in there, yeah, sure. I mean, I don't see any reason why not. But again, I think if they are going to get people in there who are talented enough to make these designs work, they're going to do it by employing them. Yeah. I mean, look what happened with Cosmo, right? It's a bit of a different scenario because Reddit isn't a day job, so to speak. It doesn't pay like YouTube does. So he is actually now, of course, a part of the studio. He's there in the, BW. He's in the TWAB every week. I hate that. Why did they change it from the BWU? But he's there every week. He's a part of the studio. He's actually a very important member of the community team now, and they do make hires from their community. So the entire idea of them building raids with the team is not out of the question. But
what I could see happening is if they ever did introduce a Forge type mode for Destiny, and we got some
get me on that.
We got some players who were making like some really interesting stuff in that. I could see them hiring out of the community for that.
Briar, you know what my
Bungie
YouTube
has.
channel was originally called? It was called Reach Forge Network. I started as a forger.
Oh, really?
Like, that would be my crack.
Forge is so good.
Yes,
I would be on that stuff forever. Seriously.
That is awesome. It is the cornerstone, and I think that knowing Bungie, if they could have put all this stuff into the game, they would have. They could have. They would have.
Right? Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, we're still adding to it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see that though, man. That would be the end of PvE droughts for me.
Because this is the thing, right? Halo's community would they go days and days and days without proper DLC. But part of it is because the Forge community gives them new maps. You know, like this is another great thing, right? They sort of make their own weird PvE/PvP hybrid experiences. Back in the days of Halo Reach forging, there were these maps which we called Journey Infection maps, and the idea is that you'd start off and you'd basically work your way through a story level that had been built by people. The zombies would be coming for you constantly, and they'd have objects spawn in such a way that you'd be able to progress after a certain amount of time. So after 60 seconds, a ramp would spawn that would mean you could go up to the next area, and then in the next bit, you know, warthogs would spawn, and that would let you move into the next bit. After that, you know, you'd have a gate despawn, and you could move into the final section of the level. This is the kind of stuff that we did literally for 2 years waiting for Halo 4, and there was a consistent community throughout. It was so strong.
Yeah. It was awesome.
That's what's incredible.
I mean, think about all the stuff that came out of the community.
Long story short, give the community creation tools, and we will never have another drought.
Exactly.
Seriously.
So much pressure would get lifted off of Bungie.
Exactly. We talk about that a lot, about like the various levels of Forge mode that they can introduce. They don't have to give us the whole thing initially. They could just do with like initially modifying the maps that we have or the strikes that we have, and then move into like having exactly, like in Halo. Then move into have actual geometry pieces that we can move around and build and all that. Because just like you said, in Halo, I think it was every month they would have maps that were voted on from the community that they would put into the rotation because they were great. And then they'd try them out in the community, and people would get to vote again whether or not they want to keep them or not, or just community members in general saying what their opinions were. And it kept PvP fresh. It kept it fresh.
And not to
you could always jump in and be like, oh, wow,
there's like a whole other community that rises up from that, right? Like we've got a very clear set of at least YouTube content creators, but also people who follow, right? There's people who do new stuff. There's the little lore community. There's the PvPers, which are a huge crowd right now. Imagine if all of a sudden we had the Forge map guys. You know, that's a whole new level of YouTubers, a whole new group of people that suddenly gets born. And these are the ones who all of a sudden become a new kind of community hero, because again, they're the ones that keep the freaking game alive, right? Like it happened in Halo Reach, it happened in Halo 3. Seriously, like it is the biggest shame. Like forget about the Grimoire and everything I said earlier on this podcast. Like the biggest shame of Destiny is that it didn't have the same kind of creation tools that Halo did. Because
hopefully
the droughts we have now are a result of that.
Well, Halo started Halo, and then Halo 2, and then Halo 3, and then by the time Halo 3 came out, they started seeing Forge. So
Forge came in 3.
Destiny has some time to mature as a game before those tools are available.
Yep.
Yeah.
At Mick G the Beast, I've seen more new players in the Tower in Crucible. Have you noticed this as well? Your thoughts on why? So, more new players?
New players, yes.
Bungie said that there was a whole ingestion in June, ever since the announce of Rise Iron.
Nice. Yeah. I've seen a lot more blueberries. And it's not just the people who've started their third or second alts, too. The people who've got like 2,000 Grimoire. These are legit blueberries. I saw a level 25 there, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why is he 25?
Kinderguardians, please.
I saw a Kinderguardian who was only level 25, and lo and behold, his Grimoire is literally, I don't know what the minimum is, it was like 150, because you start with however little amounts of Grimoire you start with, but you know, that's the way you can immediately tell how new somebody is to the community. Forget the light level or the level immediately, just look at the Grimoire.
Yeah.
At Daniel Casket, do you think we'll find anything out about the Ahamkara in the old factions before the wars?
Someone said my favorite word.
I was thinking about that, but we had such a long discussion already. I was like, oh man, the Ahamkara is also such an interesting.
Long story short, I think if they're going to introduce any of this stuff, they're going to introduce it in Destiny 2, because in Destiny 2 we're probably going to go to the Jovians, and that means we're probably going to head around about Ganymede and Europa and Titan and all the other moons of Jupiter and Saturn and all these other places, and there's probably going to be the 9 and the Ahamkara.
Nice. Are the Ahamkara the worms?
interesting question. I believe that the worms are corrupted Ahamkara. There are people in the lore community who are all over the place on this, but there's an undeniable link between the two.
Yeah.
The only thing I really care about from a gameplay perspective, though, is the tantalizing idea that I could be riding a freaking dragon right now.
Right.
And I can't because I'm not on Jupiter. Get me to freaking Jupiter, Bungie. Come on.
So they're not extinct?
Let's put it this way, right? The Great Hunt card in the Grimoire, which states, the Ahamkara they were hunted to extinction. It ends literally saying, "Of this you can be assured, O reader mine." That is a very telling sentence because in all of the Ahamkara bones, there's that latent psionic energy, which means that they commune with you, right? So, the sealed Ahamkara's Grasp, the double melee hunter exotic, that literally has a phrase which talks about how the silver helps to dull the auditory hallucinations. So whether or not they are extinct, they are not gone because they're still around through the auditory hallucinations that you get. I personally think that these hallucinations probably are enough to drive people away and to ensure that the Ahamkara are still somewhat alive. But also, you've got to remember that there's so many cards out there. So for example, Warlock 1 is a card where a hunter is convinced to go ahead and, go out and fight and find an Ahamkara. And there's an artifact that relates to that same story, which is called the Ahamkara Scale. Hunter artifact you get from Iron Banner sometimes, actually. And the quote is, and that Warlock thought I couldn't do it. So it's proof the hunter has gone out and killed and found an Ahamkara. But on top of that, you've then got to consider the fact that not only are the worms related to the Ahamkara, so through that virtue they could still be alive, but also these things, potentially, if the Book of Sorrows is to be believed, they've been around for literally millennia. These things have been around almost as long as the freaking Hive. Like, they were at the Giftmast, which is another reference to an ancient battle between the darkness and the light where the Traveller was present. And they've travelled with this damn thing for generations. So, it's... We will probably end up... If I don't ride a dragon, I'm going to be damn disappointed, Bungie. Come on. That's all I'll say. I want... I am Khaleesi right now. Where are my dragons?
Well, in order to get a dragon, Byf, you need to make at least 8 grandiose statements, just pontificating about how amazing you are in front of 8 armies before that ever happens. Then you'll get your.
You gotta have at least 9 titles before your name.
Nah, you know what's gonna happen. You're gonna have to go around Cosmodrome, various moons of Jupiter and all that, and collect really rare resources that only pop up 1 in 10 times. You have to collect like 1,000 different resources before you actually finally finish that quest line. And then by that time you're like, screw this dragon. I can't stand this quest.
And you have to be able to survive fire naked. Confirm that
True.
only Warlock Sunsingers are going to be able to ride dragons.
Yeah. Destiny 2 become Fireborn.
Mm-hmm. And I would happily do that because, why not? Now they're not so bad anymore. They're not gutted.
Christopher Goldman, if each of you guys could rebuff a nerfed weapon, what would it be?
Thorn. I'm not even hesitating, man. Thorn was like...
Briar, can you please let Byf know that I muted him? Can you let Byf know that I muted him? Because I don't want any of that in my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bring your hate speech here, Byf.
Now, you know what? I'm with Byf. I think it's time. It's time to bring back the Thorn. Let's go. I'm ready for Thorn 2.0. You know it's coming. Rise Irons are coming. It's coming, guys.
Like, you know what? I think if ever they do an expansion about Dreadgan Yor, that's the point at which they'll bring back Thorn. Like, maybe Dreadgan Yor isn't actually dead.
I'm going to double down on you. I want Suros. I want Suros no longer nerfed. Year 1 Suros, baby. Then your
Year 1 Suros did like 45 damage.
Then your Thorn is irrelevant at that point then.
That's okay. I don't mind. I like variety.
I did a Sharder
As
Cupid
it is
video.
right now, most people just shoot me with a shotgun anyways, so.
I did a Sharder Cupid video
variety.
on the Suros today, and man, I missed that gun. That gun used to be really fun to use.
It used
It
to
had
be
so
fun.
many cool perks that
just
it doesn't matter anymore because you can't kill nobody with it.
Mm-hmm.
How about the Vex Mythoclast? Bring back the Vex. Year 1
my
power.
God,
Vanilla
when that
power.
thing was powerful. Oh my god. I still have nightmares of loading into an Iron Banner game and trying to get kills, and then just running into somewhere with Vex Mythoclast and being like, so do I rage quit now or in 5 minutes? Like, you know.
Oh, the Vex Mythoclast. Oh my god.
That was the worst. Actually, Fellwinter's Lie? Sorry, one more.
Oh no! God damn!
Stop! Jesus, what is your problem?
No.
He is never coming back on this podcast.
No, I'm pretty sure of that.
I wouldn't mind seeing that the Suros make a comeback, not to its original power, but like that whole archetype of high impact, low rate of fire auto rifles. It'd be nice to see them just a little bit of a buff to just kind of raise them up into relevancy. Yeah,
sure.
Because they're not far off; they're just a tick off.
We're due for a meta change.
Yeah. Kenneth Krieger, Rise of Iron is being released next to 2 consoles. You think it will have boosted performance on those consoles? I'm struggling to understand. I think he's talking
on 2
about
consoles,
the Scorpio
perhaps?
and the Neo.
I think he's talking about the fact that last gen is being dropped. Do you think current gen is going to have any kind of performance enhancements?
Well, he says, I think it will be boosted.
Yeah, I think Breyer's question, even I think the way that Breyer's interpreting it's a little bit more interesting of a question. Like the new specs of the new consoles, even if it's Xbox One or the whatever their new.
So
versions.
Scorpio Neo, do you think? Okay, if it's Scorpio Neo, I don't think they're going to do anything to this version of the game.
No.
I think what's going to happen is Destiny 2 is going to get all the perks and bonuses of that hardware, and this current hardware is going to scale the game down to like 720p, so it can maintain 60 FPS.
I like that thinking.
Sure, but I think that's probably right.
Yeah.
If he's talking about, if he's talking about the other flip side of things, where getting rid of the last gen consoles is that going to improve the power? Question kind of answers itself, right? Yes. I mean, if it needed to be any clearer, it's been a question that's answered in the interviews with a variety of different people. I think it was actually a question that More Console directly asked Deej and Urk, and they just said, yes, we can do reams more stuff with this new power.
Yeah.
So
I think they should make it a Neo and Scorpio exclusive, because I'm sick of you plebs on the PS4 and Xbox One holding back my Destiny. This game has so much growth potential, and just because all you guys haven't upgraded to the Neo and the Scorpio, I have to deal with limited vault space. No.
Where's my unlimited freaking vault? I'm only limited to 20 pages right now. This is unacceptable.
Rogue Butt Stabber, what would you think if they added kill cams as a new feature that they're hyping up? Also, definitely
I think Rogue Butt Stabber is looking forward to this feature in particular, so he can actually become his namesake and show off to everybody about it.
I think it would help quite a bit. I know some people would get salty over seeing the death again, but listen, I would much rather be able to watch it again and be like, what the hell just happened? And then I find out that his buddy was team firing also. It would answer quite a few things for me, because I could be like, okay, there was crossfire. I stepped into crossfire. It looked like an instant death. It was actually the fact that 2 people were firing me at the same time.
I'd also love to just observe how bad the other person's lag is from time to time.
That too, definitely.
Because there's times, like, I mean, back when Guardian Radio and Planet Destiny had their, like, throwdown, there was a point at which I pulled this stupid, unbelievable no-scope off on, like, on Holtzman. And I remember afterwards listening on the podcast, just before everything sort of started when we were in the Discord chat, like, there was a point at which Holtzman literally said, how the did you do that? And I'm sitting there being like, I don't freaking know. That was just luck, man. Like, it's one those moments like that where I'd love to see, like, oh yeah, that was legit. Okay, he's, grats to you. You got lucky. And I'd also love to see the other times, which is back to what I was originally talking about, where they were just freaking aiming through a wall, and somehow they hit me.
Yeah.
Or on their screen, you were out in the open, but on your screen, you weren't for some reason, because, the way the game engine has anticipating lag right now is it says that you're likely to be here in the future, but you're not caught up with the game world yet because you're not, you don't have the best connection to the host at the time.
Call of Duty players are familiar with this, is that when I died, I was already behind that corner, but then when I watched the kill cam, I haven't even started rounding it yet.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that also from a tactical standpoint or enjoyment of the game, I don't believe that when somebody dies as the third player in a Trials of Osiris team, it should be able to give call outs on the guy that just killed them. They shouldn't be a red outlined body consistently on my screen, and I can give them second to second call outs as to that. We're rewarding the person that just died with the ability to have constant information to their team as to where the person that killed them. It's just ensures that person who had the higher skill to kill you. It
is an odd thing. That
it is a very odd thing.
Yeah.
It's rubber banding kind of, but at the same time, I mean, like it's a gun skill versus mind skill argument. I think. Like if you're prepped for the engagement, it'll definitely help. But then there's going to be those people whose aim is, they have, what's a good way of describing this without being very offensive?
Potato aim.
Potato aim is a very good way of doing it. Yeah, they have potato aim anyway, so it's not going to matter. Like
potato.
What?
Yeah, I just said potato.
Yep, you say potato, he says potato, you say tomato, he says tomato, potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
Bingo.
But even the British don't say potato. What?
We're in America, and this podcast it's hosted in America.
Get with it, Byf. It's not like it's 4:30 in the morning over there.
I just call it a
It's not even 4:30, it's 5.
Oh my gosh. We're about to break Byf's brain right now.
Trust me,
somebody's about to have
every
jet lag.
single week I do this on Guardian Radio, so it's no big deal.
All right, I'll do 3 more questions and we'll wrap it up. This is going to be a long podcast already. Triggerblade, do you think there will be another leak before Gamescom?
There already has been.
Yeah. Yes, I do think so.
Destiny, the collection,
is
a thing that appeared on Amazon.co.uk very briefly and then disappeared. So,
boom,
yeah.
Leak.
You got one.
Do you think there's going to be anything else that's going to be relevant to the game? Yeah.
I couldn't possibly confirm or deny. Seriously, I don't know anything. But
I think there will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think DJ's involved?
Can we use air quotes when we say leaked, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think information will come out about what's going on at Gamescom before it comes out.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
At Sigo Joe, which would you rather have implemented as a new exotic quest line? Exotic Ghost or Exotic Sparrow?
Exotic Ghost, actually, no, because the Ghost doesn't really change, it's just the shell.
I would go with the Ghost because it's got stats.
You know what? Because I kind of agree, but just because the Ghost has more room to do anything in terms of an actual storyline, the Sparrow is probably just going to be something like, hey, I'm Amanda Holiday, and this is SRL, and y'all going to be the best racer on the track, and y'all going to get this exotic Sparrow, okay?
Nailed it.
That was awesome. You do a southern accent so well, Byf.
In a perfect world, my exotic Ghost has that voice.
Confirmed. Byf is SRL Amanda Holiday voice actor.
It's taking on the track.
All right, last question.
Well, I think honestly, Briar, if a ghost was an exotic ghost, I think it would be awesome if the Iron Lords, if we like the mission, in that mission, we let's say we break in and free the ghosts of the Iron Lords, and as a reward we get an exotic ghost, and it gives us certain characteristics that would be meaning of an exotic item, something that it would give you an ability bonus, instead of just Grimoire or Glimmer for one class of Guardian killed in the Crucible. You would get Glimmer from all classes,
all adversaries, maybe even. So it just goes beyond the Crucible.
Yeah,
you kill.
That's interesting.
And it's an exotic slot, so if you choose to use it, you're holding up your exotic.
Oh, really?
But which exotic? Weapon or armor? Armor, I presume. Right?
Armor.
Yeah.
Boo. Never equipped that thing.
Yeah. Well, if you're out there grinding for Glimmer, guess what you're doing?
Now you see,
I
here's
need
the
that
thing,
Glimmer.
right?
I'm always
what
at 25k.
What about what's it called? Alchemist Raiment. That basically becomes a redundant exotic. I mean, sure, you
It
get
already is.
melee and
Who runs that?
Who uses that?
But I mean, then it's like, is the exotic ghost even going to be exotic then? Because does the thing really add up over time? Like, does the
How
extra
about it
glimmer
gives
really
me
count?
the option to double my Twilight Garrison usage every 33 seconds? Extra Twilight Garrison usage.
Wait. When
Exotic
equipped, it takes all exotic items back to year 1 unnerfing.
Multiply Titan skating speed by 2.
There it is.
Skip grenades not only skip, they hop and they jump.
Oh my god.
Please no.
All right, last question, then we should let Byf go back to sleep. Frank asks, opinion on the state of fusion rifles in Destiny right now, and what's your favorite one?
Tekken Rage. Underrated, but it's the one you can get from Challenge of the Elders, and I was using it a few weeks back in Trials on Black Shield when it was last in the rotation, and it slays. It's a fantastic little counter to the shotguns. I honestly have no shame in saying that. I used it to... Yeah, there were a couple of rounds where I was literally last Guardian standing versus a team of 3, and using good corners, you can really put that thing to work. Like, if you can bait people appropriately on radar, like... It's such a powerful little tool, because they'll slide in through a door, and then they'll be trying to get in for their next slide, and that's the point at which you've already charged up. Their frame is then, they're standing up again, and that's the point at which you hit them, and all of the things will probably hit. If you use it in the right situation, it's the most powerful weapon in Destiny, but that situation almost never comes up. That's what I'd say.
I think they're in a good place personally. I don't use them too often, but I feel like Thiessen, Vacancy, those are all... They're in a good spot. You can do some
Susanna
serious
is
work
reasonable.
Yeah, Susanna, if you're rocking the Warlock, it's working right now. It's good stuff.
Oh, Plan C. Fuck.
Yeah, and then there's
How could we forget about Plan C?
I got a hitchhiker that is just stupid good, and I love that thing to death, man. It is... I love fusion rifles. I think they're great. I was unsure of them. I was untested on them. Community came back to me and was telling me to use them. Gave me some advice. I deleted like 10 different fusion rifles that I thought were good, and worked my way down to 2 that I like: a fast charging one and a low charging one. And man, I'm enjoying it. I think they're good. I think they fill a niche, and when a charging Titan is coming at you, nothing feels better than to evaporate them.
Oh, Plan C is great too, because you switch weapons, you can immediately fire it. Like, it's such a great
feels
panic
so
weapon.
Good.
Yeah,
just like nuh-uh.
Yeah, you leave your shotgun a little bit further back, please, sir. Back up.
You've entered into the zone of the Plan C. Please.
Yeah. But the Praetorian foil, I finally got the Praetorian foil.
Oh my god, that's
it is
actually
ridiculous.
A really good one. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
It's so freaking good. And
It is
nobody knows about it.
amazing. I love it. So much hate mail. So much
rare.
hate mail.
It's hilarious getting killed by that. It's very powerful.
Speaking of which, I think there's a lot of those year 1 guns that people don't know they can go into level 28 Prison of Elders and get a chance to really play with them. I was really impressed. I was playing with somebody today who I'm definitely gonna not get their name because I'm sucking. I was playing with them today. I just randomly ran into them, and we ended up playing together most of the day. And he said, "Hey man, you should check out some of these, especially if you're gonna get into sweats. There's all these." Level 1 guns that you can re-roll if they drop in 28 Prison of Elders. And so I jumped in there.
Benevolence, right?
There's a ton of them, and there's the High Road Soldier,
Fixer,
which is basically a Mida.
It's a Mida full auto. He had one with full auto, hand laid stock, and Firefly, and it was just
good lord
gorgeous to see in PvP. He had all these guns that he was just this connoisseur of year 1 guns, and it was really fun to play with him. I ran a couple PoEs with him, 28, and it solves my weapon parts problem, and because you get a ton of drops, and they're not that hard. You can kind of do them with half ping attention, and if you get a good gun, then you can go over and re-roll it. It's awesome.
And you don't need a key anymore, right, for the chest?
No,
you don't.
Yeah.
It just opens up.
It is.
If you're looking to farm exotics, also that are year one that you need. You need last word.
Am I the only person that misses key farming?
Yes.
I mean, I miss it for the extra resources, but I don't think I miss it for the key part of it.
I loved it. I loved it when it first dropped and just like everybody was doing it.
I like that.
There was the
Easy
glitch
time it dropped.
that if you left
Easy
the area and came back, it would respawn in, so you could get like 2 of them. So you just saw everybody like rush to this thing, then everybody just scatter, get to the nearest exit, and then come back to the chest to see if they could get it again. It was so fun.
You see, like the extra resources I didn't mind. Doing that 5 times in a single run and then not getting a key, that I do not miss.
Yeah.
That whole mechanic and process can go shove something up its butt.
It was available for a week before you actually knew what you were going to do with those keys too.
Yeah, it was part of that patch before House of Wolves dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a really fun week. Very good way to hype it up. I hope they do that for Rise of Iron.
Me too.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
It's like open up imagine if they open up Plague Lands and then it's like, hey, just go wild, you know?
I imagine they would open up the Cosmodrome. Not the Plague Lands though, because I don't think they're gonna I think they'd show a little bit of SIVA stuff that happens in the Cosmodrome.
That seems legit. I like that.
Yeah.
We should let Byf go. We've had him for a long time. Poor guy.
It's a big boy podcast.
What are you talking about? It's only 9 o'clock at night.
Just because I don't have magnificent facial hair like you guys. One day I shall join your ranks. But that is not this day. Sadly. On the plus side, I can at least the internet tells me I can stand with the podcast here in terms of beautiful voices. Like,
There you
good
go.
lord.
Absolutely, man.
Like, Tefty, tell me that you get this too. Every single time someone's like, hey, who in the Destiny community has a brilliant voice? It's always us two that share the same freaking tweets.
Yeah,
it's really
Tefty
really
has
silly.
the most erotic voice, and Briar has the most contagious laugh, and Holtzman has the most, and I'm just the stepchild that. No, I'm just kidding. I have the best hair, the best head of hair.
Best hair in Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Best RNG in Destiny, that's for sure.
Best RNG, man. Your RNG is.
Oh, dude, I didn't even get to
lit.
talk to you guys about all the stuff.
You don't need to.
dropped.
Anyways,
All right,
guys,
that's
thank you
gonna
so
do
much.
it
That's a
for-
great podcast.
Yeah, that's great.
All right,
Don't
thank
worry,
you guys
I'll
for
tag you
watching.
guys
That's
when I
going to
get
do it for episode 81. It was 81, right? 81
right,
of
81.
the Planet Destiny podcast. I'm Briar Rabbit.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at the Briar Rabbit, on YouTube, on the Briar Rabbit channel. We're streaming right here on Twitch. Just look for Briar Rabbit.
Yeah, I'm Tefty Teft. You can talk to me at Teft on Twitter, twitter.com/Teft. You can catch the streams I do on my personal channel, twitch.tv/Tefty Teft, and the streams I do for Planet Destiny and videos and such and all that action.
Yeah, and this has been PopeBear, and I have enjoyed myself very much today. It was a flashback from when I was on a little while ago. And you can find me on Twitter at PopeBear. And then also I've been picking up streams here and there on the Planet Destiny channel and enjoying the hell out of you guys coming in and hanging out. So keep doing that.
And my name has been MyNameIsByf. You can catch me on Twitter at MyNameIsByf. Also, I run a YouTube channel, which is just search MyNameIsByf on YouTube. YouTube.com/MyNameIsByf will be the top one, I promise. And then also, of course, I do the Patreon, which we talked about earlier in the show while Matt was still here. Long story short, if you want to go ahead and support any of the lore videos I do, the best way to do it is to go ahead and donate. Even $1 helps, and all the excess goes to charity, not to me. So, doing good stuff in the world anyway.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but this has been PopeBear in Kuch out.
Thanks for watching, guys.